Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Football, it began simple enough. Line up 11 men on one side, 11 on the other. The team with the ball is the offense. The team without it is the defense. Snap the ball, you run, you collide, and you tackle. But now football is much more. No longer just a game of brawn, it's also a game of brains. This is Bare Necessities.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Bare Necessities. Thank you so much for joining me again tonight. I'm your host, Jordan T. Silveira. You can find me at Jordan T. Silveira on Twitter. Thank you again for contributing and giving your precious time to Barroom Network. You can find us at Barroom Network on Twitter, as well as the president of Barroom Network, a guy I call the Maestro, Aldo Gandia. You can find him at Aldo Barkeeper. As you can see, I am riding solo tonight. No guests. We're going to just try this thing out again. It's been a while since I've been solo, and I want to extend this because this was an interesting idea. And we'll see how many we get tuned in, but I will have a portion of this show that is dedicated to, I don't want to say Football 101. You may hear this joke kind of pass around, and I like to kind of mess with it. In many ways, there's always more to learn. So do not take this seriously when I joke and say, I am your foremost ball knower. No, I don't know everything about football, but I do pride myself in the knowledge that I do have, and I do think that I want to try and spread that, educate, inform, entertain, engage. And so there will be a portion of this that is Football 101, if you will. If you have any questions about the game, any questions about schemes, schematics, feel free to go ahead and drop those in the chat box. Leave your questions. I will try my best to get to them. We have an interesting docket tonight. Going to talk a little about Rams training camp, which I did visit last week, Chargers training camp that I will be visiting here this weekend. In addition, what do the Chicago Bears have to lose? Who on the Chicago Bears has the most to lose? Well, I don't mean to make it so negative. We're going to do a little bit of who has stuff to gain as well. In general, just talking about that, the Football 101. And then lastly, I did try my best to break down some of Luke Getsy's play calling. It is what I would consider, and you may hear Luke Getsy's talk about in general, oh, he called plays at Mississippi State under Joe Moorhead. I hate to break it to individuals. That is not correct. Oh, okay. Well, did he call plays at any point in his career? He has never officially called a play outside of one game. That is the Week 4 preseason of 2019 against the Chiefs, funny enough. Just happens to play into our favor that guess who the Bears are playing this week for their first preseason game, the Chiefs. So we're going to see what Luke Getsy's play calling looks like. I was able to get through most of the first half of that game. Just going to go through the drives play by play, show you some tendencies, show you what we can find out as we are officially back. And this is what I am so excited about. Football is back, baby. That excites me more than you know. I can feel it in the air. It's just a different time of the season. I have to admit, I love my football. I will not be watching it, but I'll pull it up here because I had the preseason game going, Hall of Fame game going. I love football. It's something that I can't get enough of. So this is, in many ways, Christmas presents being opened today for me. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. Thanks for joining me. So let's just start by, I guess I will just talk a little bit about the Rams camp. I'll make sure it's Bears interesting because, as you know, they do have Leonard Floyd, former Bear. Allen Robinson, former Bear. Allen Robinson, if you haven't heard, let me be the next one to just pile on. My single day at I wish I was at Bears training camp, at Rams training camp, included Allen Robinson looking like a true focal point of that offense. Do not get me wrong, don't misconstrue me. Cooper Kupp, obviously amazing player, still great, a lot of usage in the day, but it felt like they had two Cooper Kupps on the field. I was watching Allen Robinson be used in motion, catching screens, going up and being the ball winner that we know him as. In many ways, it pains me because it does feel like Allen Robinson would have been a great tool for Justin Fields had he bought in last year. And I do understand his position that why would I put my body at risk and play my hardest when I've given you multiple years of myself, and then all I wanted was a contract and all you did was franchise tag me. Again, I don't totally agree with it, but I understand it. It's a bummer, but I am excited. Not that Alan's ever going to see or hear this, but Alan, if you do, I am excited for your time, your career with the Rams. I think that you finally got a real quarterback in Matt Stafford, and I find and hope that you find success. Next one, Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd looked to be, I mean, he's still, don't get me wrong, he's still Mr. 6'4", scrawny 240, but he was plenty disruptive in what was a padded practice for the Rams. So really just an insightful day. Love to see what felt like a pretty well-ran practice from the defending champs. I'm very excited to see what they look like week 1 against the Bills coming up. That's just, man, you want to talk about an amazing way to kick off the season. That is what I am looking forward to kick us off on a Thursday night just a few weeks from now. Outside of that, I guess you would say the big takeaway, it did come out today. I made sure, I would love to sit here and tell you I'm an insider. I'm not, but I did find it a little weird that Matt Stafford was not out there running plays. Don't get me wrong. He was throwing the ball around in one-on-ones and individual drills, but no teamwork was he throwing the ball. And I thought that was rather strange. And then it did come out today and it just now all adds up that he is dealing with elbow tendonitis. So that is a scenario where we will see how they employ and use Matt Stafford. So that's that. The other final one I guess I have to add is that it did very much feel like Bobby Wagner. Yes, NFC West foe, former Seahawk. He's wearing number 45. I couldn't take my eyes off of him because he was just so dominant. Big areas of strength. They were doing running back pass pro drills, linebackers blitzing. Bobby Wagner was just wrecking everybody. And okay, well, that's fine. He's a Hall of Famer. What do you expect, Jordan? He's beating up on some running backs. Yeah, but when they went to team and he's getting pick sixes, it's even more exciting. And just, it was great. He had an interception, dropped in a hook zone, ultimately picked off what was a crossing route, ran it back. Aaron Donald's jumping on his back, partying, having a good time. It's an interesting experience. So enjoyed that. Looking forward to next week, which will be the LA Chargers. I will be going this weekend. Looking forward to seeing Khalil Mack, Justin Herbert, a guy that I hold in high esteem and high regard. And excited because we are talking Brandon Staley, one of the young, blossoming head coaches that is a former Chicago Bears staffer as well. Just a lot of good things there. And I wish in many ways, I wish I had a partner here like Aldo. I see you're in the chat. Feel free to hop on and tell me what Bears camp is like. This is the unfortunate truth that I'm sitting here in LA, in Orange County specifically. So all I have to do is visit, now I'm blessed, my 2 LA teams, Rams, Chargers, but I don't get to see the Bears. Now I have been keeping up with the Bears. We'll finish up with that. The Bears camp is an interesting one. Certainly lots of highs, lows, ups, and downs. We will talk about that and ultimately figure out what is going on. But I do think that there's an interesting perspective there, which is we've heard a lot of media say Justin Fields has looked off. We've heard, the line's bad. I think that there's some, don't get me wrong, there's some reason to have a little bit of concern there. But in the same way, and this doesn't just apply to the Bears, it applies to every team. Just try to, as fans, I wish I could just spread this around. Just try your best to stay even-keeled, temper your expectations. At the end of the day, I'll give you one last thing, and we can find these every single season, by the way. But let me remind everybody last year that at this time, a number 5 overall pick, wide receiver Jamar Chase out of LSU, apparently couldn't catch balls because apparently the ball was too different and he was having too hard of a time catching it. And Joe Burrow was coming back from a torn ACL and apparently was looking shy in the pocket. And ultimately, what did that amount to? Yes, the Bengals had a tough game too against none other than our Chicago Bears in that great defensive performance against Joe Burrow, but still ended up doing well. It's a situation where as tough as training camp may look for the Bears, it's just training camp. Let's wait to see what happens. So we will go from there and just to be excited. I mean, that's my thing. I couldn't help myself. I had to get into film mode where, you know what? I did Eberflus's defense. I've gone ahead and done that. Let me move on to what little tiny piece I can find of Getsy. before we officially get to see what this vanilla offense. Now, I don't think you're going to see Luke Getsy. No offensive coordinator is going to show you all of their cards in the preseason, but you're going to at least start to see what that looks like. And the beautiful parallel is that we're able to show you, because the only time that he's had play calling experience on the pro level wasn't a preseason game, you're still going to be able to see and draw a lot of parallels between that limited play calling set to what he's also planning on doing probably in the next week or two with the preseason schedule. So as much as training camp gets everybody riled up, myself included, I didn't love the pass that he airmailed, Justin Fields airmailed to N'Keal Harry, but that's the exact thing. It's a pass. It's fine. They'll nail it together. N'Keal Harry's the last one there, the most recently acquired. They have to build that chemistry. But at the end of the day, let's be excited, because it means one thing over another. And this goes back to the idea. Football is back. It means that every day that padded practice goes on, we are getting ever closer to the Chicago Bears season opener against San Francisco. And so much of even that cloud has become just more visible. Before it was, well, is it going to be Jimmy? Is it going to be Trey? It's Trey. We're going to see what that looks like. I've been trying to pay a little bit of attention. As everybody knows me, I'm an NFL fan. I have been trying to pay attention to the San Francisco 49ers training camp. There's also been some ups and downs there. For those that want to know a little bit about the week one opponent, Trey Lance is having some very high highs as well as some lows in that training camp. Their defense is looking on fire. Supposedly new free agent addition Charvarius Ward from the Chiefs, cornerback, has been the big showstopper, if you will. And D'Amico Ryans is just killing it. So I will admit that I do have a little bit of a concern regarding that defense against this offense. And for those that are wondering, okay, well, what about our offense? Certainly, there's no tape on the Bears offense. We'll see what happens. But I do want to also remind everybody, and you can go back and watch the Eberflus defense, very end of the video, I actually showed that first drive that the Colts defense had against this style offense, the grandfather of it. I mean, I shouldn't say the grandfather. I guess you would say the son of the grandfather. We're talking Kyle now at this point, not Mike. But Kyle actually just put this Colts defense in a blender for that first drive. And so I will say I'm a little concerned about that San Francisco 49ers game, but we're going to see what happens. As far as the 49ers offensive line, just a little heads up, and it's interesting to hear. I mean, for those that aren't keeping track, as much as, wow, Kyle runs the best run game, and wow, they just had Alex Mack and all these great guys. Joe Staley's not there anymore. That's not new news. Alex Mack did retire their center. That is a key functional part. Everybody thought J.C. Tretter would be the guy coming in. No J.C. Tretter signing yet. They are, I don't even want to say the guy's name because I don't remember the name off the top of the head. Maybe it's Jake Brendel or something of that sort. That's their center. So it's a unique scenario where at the end of the day, you've got a likely Hall of Fame center that retires. That is your pivot. That's so crucial to all this wide zone. And then all of a sudden they're starting a fourth round rookie who I was actually pretty high on, but Spencer Burford out of UTSA, Texas San Antonio, is their guard, who I believe is playing next to Trent Williams, if I'm correct. And then I believe it's Aaron Banks and Mike McGlinchey on the other side. So it's a unique scenario where I think that game is going to be quite surprising, quite exciting. It's week one. We've seen the Packers get blown off the field by the Saints last year. Anything can happen, but it's unique. So just kind of catching up here, and I hate to go behind the scenes, but StreamYard is not loading any comments until about 20 seconds ago. So I've just been talking. You'll notice that's why I haven't pulled up any chats, but as I'm just trying to quickly scroll through here, Cliff, I appreciate you more than you know. You're not solo. You have us too. Well, for a minute, I really was. There was no comments. So it's just funny. Cornelius saying, I watched the Hall of Fame game. It wasn't bad. It's football. Exactly, Cornelius. I'm telling you, you have never seen me more excited. I get a lot of crap that, hey, you're negative. You're pessimistic. Have a little more hope. Where's my man? No, man. I love you for razzing me like that. It's just funny because this is me. I love football. Aldo knows this. This is probably why he brought me to the bar room, because I am like a kid at a candy store. You know what I'm picking up in preseason? I have a friend, Nick West, if you're listening. He's a diehard Raiders fan. He's excited. And I'm going, I hate to tell you. He thinks that, oh, my God, we got Devontae Adams. It's going to be over. That Raiders offensive line is a mess. I'm watching Trevon Walker beat up Brandon Parker. Alex Leatherwood, first round pick tackle that went ahead of Tevin Jenkins, is at guard and isn't looking great. We're seeing Zamir White, running back out of Georgia, looking like a real player for them. Tyron Johnson, if that's a receiver that doesn't make the cut, boy, there was hype about him. He's been on numerous teams before he's had multiple 50-yard catches. He's exploded tonight. It's just been a very exciting game that I know a lot of it's like it's preseason. What's the point? You can glean information from games, even if it's not obvious, if it's not the Bears. I'm not saying that everybody has to enjoy it, but just understand that if you're tuning into me, I love the Bears, but I love football. I love the NFL. So anyways, I'm sorry. I'm excited. I see Cliff, you're asking as we get started, did I watch the Hall of Fame game? Yes. Watch it. As I was saying, Zamir White looks good. Raiders offensive line looks bad. Trevon Walker had a sack. No Devin Lloyd. That was a little bit of a bummer. That's the linebacker out of Utah. Many people's linebacker one. Chad Muma out of Wyoming was there looking okay. Tyron Johnson, number 1 for the Raiders, had some explosive plays. Trying to think, any other big things from the game that I was gleaning? Not too much at the moment. I mean, pick and choose where you can. I mean, let's talk about this then, Cliff, and I promise I will eventually catch up. But hey, it's leisure time. As we talk, although as we out at late night, this is the whole point of it. We're gonna go and have a good time. And so, with that being said, I will talk about this aspect of, I guess you want to say preseason, that I don't know how I feel about it. I, as a watcher of tonight's game, was bummed to not see Devontae Adams and Derek Carr go out there, even if it's just for a drive. And I get it. It's injury concerns. What do we need to play? And especially for these teams, they have that extra preseason game because it's the Hall of Fame game. But it gets to a situation where, let's go to the other side. We didn't get to see Travis Etienne last year, the running mate of Trevor Lawrence in the first-round running back, both from Clemson. Trevor Lawrence isn't playing. Trevor Lawrence didn't have a wonderful season. Travis Etienne didn't look great. Doug Peterson, yes, he's going to run his vanilla offense, but show me what it looks like with Trevor at the helm, not Jake Luton. So it's a situation where, and this goes to the Bears. Matt Eberflus is going, guess what? And this is why, boy, I have to pick my words carefully here because it's going to sound like I talk out of both sides of my mouth. In many ways, I still have a lot of trepidation and just want to hold off. I don't want to give the roses to Matt Eberflus yet or Ryan Poles. No results have been had. There's been no games played. So you're not going to sit here and hear me just all of a sudden tell you Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles are the best GM and coach in their first year ever. It's just not, you're not going to hear that from me. And Don, I'm going to pick on you a little bit because you're the guy it's not Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell's first year, but you would have been here last year saying the same thing. You're not going to hear that from me. But I love Matt Eberflus's just kind of earn your keep, earn your spot. I don't care if you're Justin Fields. I don't care if you're David Montgomery. You need to go out there and prove yourself. And look, football is a dangerous game. We get it. But you can get injured at any play, in any practice. Vince Beagle, linebacker from the Ravens today, tore his Achilles. We had 2 torn ACLs with, I'm trying to remember what team it was. It's slipping my mind at the moment. But 2 players that went, Broncos, Denver, Tim Patrick and Devaria Crockett, I believe. 2 torn ACLs. It can happen in any day, any practice. So I understand this whole scenario of what if we don't play the guys and keep them healthy? I think we've seen that. You had Matt Nagy get so just bloviated and go, I'm cocky. My offense will work. I don't need to go ahead and throw out my starters. And I think it tended to bite the Bears in the ass. And so I think that this is a scenario where I'm excited to see every Bears player out there making plays, get comfortable, especially because we know. And this is the thing. I'm not even saying just the Bears. I think you can look at every single team in the NFL and say, you probably could use more work. And at least put your best foot forward and say, Justin, you admitted it a couple months ago. Hey, we're not ready yet. Yeah, you're probably still not ready based on the training camp reports. But you're going to get live bullets at least out there for at least a few drives, and I'm excited about that. So, Cliff, that's kind of my thoughts on the Hall of Fame game, how it relates to the Bears. A little disappointing that we didn't see all the stars out there, but it's preseason. You can expect that. Cliff, you're saying, I thought the Raiders play way more starters, but are clearly a better team. Yeah, here's the thing. They played a lot of defensive starters, and Josh Jacobs played. Josh Jacobs looks great. I was a big Josh Jacobs fan out of Alabama coming out of the draft. He actually went with the pick that the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, I believe. If not, it was John Abram, but still in that same range. But yes, played defensive starters, played Josh Jacobs, and they are the better team. I mean, that's the reality is Jacksonville can spend all that money, but one, that money is not out on the field. And two, you have to remember, I mean, they're the team that was picking in the first overall in the draft. And this is something I'd kind of pass on to Don. Don, we can be hopeful and excited for our team. I'm not here to poo-poo you, but let's understand that the reality is when you're picking number 2 in the draft, you have a lot of work to do. And so this is the situation where the Raiders, guess what? The Raiders had a horrific season, John Gruden being ousted, to Bisaccia coming in as an interim, doing an admirable job, still found a way to the playoffs and lost within a play or two to the Bengals, one of the teams that went to the Super Bowl. So I think that, Cliff, you're spot on. Clearly the better team because of those things. Aldo, appreciate you hanging in. A-Rob will have his best season. I mean, I certainly think so when you talk about, Matt Stafford throwing him the ball. A-Rob, a steal for the Rams, yes. I like I said, I mean, we've talked about that. I just have a hard time, knowing that he kind of packed it in, but I get it. Leonard Floyd should still be a Bear. Yes, Aldo, I completely agree. I know that's not a popular one. People think that you pick an edge guy at number 9, he should have 15 sacks, and because he didn't have 15 sacks, he wasn't a valuable player. The thing about that Fangio defense that he and Khalil Mack did such a great job with was they both set the edge. They both contained, forced it. And then on passing plays, guess what? Sure, Leonard Floyd's maybe not roaring off the edge to get a sack, but let Khalil Mack flush the pocket, and Leonard Floyd will be there to pick it up. And unfortunately, you saw the Bears just kind of get under that zeitgeist of we have to have that other edge rusher opposite Khalil Mack. And in typical Bears fashion, it just didn't work out. It's what's so funny and ironic about it is you have this Khalil Mack player, this all-star, that we need to get a Robin to his Batman. And when Robert Quinn and he were on the field, don't get me wrong, it was productive, but it wasn't some amazing, oh my goodness, can you believe these edge players that they have? It wasn't, Joey Bosa, what we presume Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are going to be. And what's so ironic about it is that when the Batman of the situation was out last year in Khalil Mack, you had Robert Quinn putting the entire rush on his back in many ways. And Travis Gibson showed up admirably in Khalil Mack's absence. But talk about a wonderful season showing that you don't always have to have that all-star Robin to somebody's Batman to make plays. Cliff, you're talking about cooking some sous vide cheesecake tonight. You're teasing me over here. I had spaghetti meat sauce tonight, and I'm just kind of drinking I'll give you a little hint to my addiction. I like my Baja Blast Freeze, and so I'm drinking that as we kind of go through. Mo Beerman, can we all agree Floyd was undercoached and misuse? Yes, absolutely. Toa, you're over here giving Don Bear, I like to call him, a hard time, but I appreciate it. Cliff, I can't agree more. Clifford, boy, Herbert is the real deal. I've talked about this a lot. If I had a 33rd team tomorrow and I'm allowed to take one player from any team, it's easily Justin Herbert, without a doubt. Did Jesper end up with the Raiders? He did. I don't think he made plays tonight. And if he did, it wasn't anything noteworthy, but I was kind of trying to cut film before this and watching it off to the side. So is Detroit on his mind, poor guy. So yeah, Don, I appreciate you tuning in. We will have to talk sometime soon. Maybe Don, you can come on and we'll talk Hard Knocks. I am very excited to watch Hard Knocks with any team, but it makes it a little more interesting because of you, Don. I'm excited to see what they've got going on in that building. And as I made that joke months ago with, Sheila Hemford, Panay, will you help us turn this ship around? We're going to get to finally see if that ship is starting to turn. I think that there's a lot of hope in Detroit. But as I said, I think that there's a situation where you were picking second for a reason. We've got a lot of room to grow. Khalil Mack, a Charger. Yes, he's glad. I mean, I'm happy for Khalil Mack too. I think in many ways it was a good breakup. It was time for the Bears to move on from him as well and let him go into greener pastures. It's kind of like the Allen Robinson situation. Don has Detroit on to use Cletus. Raiders open up way more formations than Jack. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and that's what was so unique about that game with Josh McDaniels is, look, Josh McDaniels is this offensive genius. How much is he going to roll out? I think in many ways, and this was somewhat of a storyline before the game, but he used to play there. His dad's there. His mom's there. This is his real first, second chance to get back as a head coach. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that when you really consider Josh McDaniels and that just the entire situation, a guy that came up through the Belichick tree and then got to branch out, became the Denver Broncos head coach and was marred with scandal and sending off Kyle Orton and drafting Tim Tebow. And it was just a total mess. And that's not too, I guess you would say, very odd from what we see from other New England staffers, Matt Patricia to, Joe Judge, to so many others that have gone out and failed. Now, what makes Josh McDaniels so different is that you're now getting to see a guy who, this is the thing, we didn't get to see Matt Patricia get a second job, or Joe Judge, or any of the others that I'm forgetting, Bill O'Brien. Josh McDaniels is the first of this kind where, look, he certainly had a crappy tenure with Denver, but now he's getting a real chance to come out and show what this second chapter looks like with Las Vegas, and I'm interested to see it. As we kind of move on here, Hard Knock producers are already bored. Aldo, Don, just enjoy this. If you're going to poke at us, we're going to poke at you, and it's all fun. I love it. I love it. I love it. A lot of people talking about Velus Jones' speed, and I mean, the one thing, and I'm not going to go sit here and try to find the tweet, but go back and look at Velus's Twitter timeline. There was a time right before the draft where he had said he ran a 4.31 at the combine. Now, I want to poo-poo on it just a tiny bit. Everybody ran much faster this year at the combine. And there was some talk about the field turf was actually renewed, and there was some other things going on. You can look it up. It's substantiated. That's not to tell you that Velus Jones isn't fast, but the 4.31 may be a little bit different than what the reality was. But here's the whole point. In that tweet that I'm referring to, he had said a 4.31, which is what he ran. Imagine if I just ran straight. And you can see the 40 where he actually ends up kind of weaving out and then coming back straight. And so whether it's a 4.31 or not, you're talking about a guy that, ultimately speaking, does, I mean, put it this way. If he's running straight, it's certainly a 4.3. And so, Leo, to your point, I think that people should talk about how fast a 4.3 is. That's not normal. That is, you're burning people at that point. So Cornelius' play calling just keeps the defense off balance. Yes, sir. We're going to kind of talk about that play calling and Luke Getsy's. Just left the Niners channel. They're looking forward to game 2 already. Don, I get you. Excited about Velus's moves. Okay. John turned in to take notes from Jordan. I love it. I love it. Tune in because calls just get close to TV. Okay, I got to move on with your comment here. I'm sorry. I just is kind of doing the solo thing, so I want to bounce back in between both. I will answer this because I just, I love talking about anything football. My thoughts on Trey Lance, and this is going to sound so negative, and I want to be very clear, and I've kind of been mentioning this because I got into a little bit of a storm on Twitter for saying that I had Zach Wilson as my QB1, and that based on 2 rookie years that don't mean a lot, both didn't perform up to standards. If I had it my way, yes, I would take Zach Wilson over Justin Fields, and I know that that's not popular, and that's fine. But life is not a zero-sum game. Just because I say I like Zach Wilson doesn't mean that I dislike Justin Fields, and that's what I'm going to say here about Trey Lance. Trey Lance is kind of Steve McNair in many ways. Big, thick, cut, powerful arm, can run the ball, certainly landed in the best place with Kyle Shanahan. I think he's got all the potential in the world. I even just think just because of what that system is, which is why you're seeing the Bears run it, the Shanahan system is very forgiving to quarterbacks, this zone scheme. And that's why, in many ways, that's what was so interesting about the 49ers pivoting and selecting their guy last year. Whether it was Fields, Lance, Jones, didn't matter. You've seen this exact scheme, whether it be Mike Shanahan down to Kyle, where when you actually go through the quarterbacks they've never had an athlete. The only time they had an athlete was Robert Griffin, and it looked killer in 1 year. The guy won Rookie of the Year. Outside of that, it's been Matt Ryan, Matt Schaub. Don't get me wrong, Jake Plummer, John Elway, athletes, but that's a different era. They are not the same athletes that come out today. And so the whole question is, what is the offense of this amazing offense that Kyle Shanahan's running? What does it look like when all of a sudden we insert a guy that's got a rocket arm that we don't have to scheme up? Safe throws, if you want to call them that, for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo or Matt Schaub. And he has all of the arm talent that a Matt Ryan had, for example, or John Elway. But then what if he runs 4.4 and he's 240? And so I tend to think if you've seen success with those other guys, you're going to see Trey Lance be successful. Now, with that said, that's my prediction. What I had originally thought is I actually had Trey Lance last in the group, ahead of guys like Kyle Trask or Davis Mills, but this is not popular. And yes, we're all going to be wrong. Everybody can throw egg on my face. That's fine. I am more than willing to admit when I've been wrong. And I still like Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond probably will not amount to much because of what's going on in Minnesota. And who knows? Zimmer probably knows what good quarterback looks like, and he clearly didn't like Kellen Mond. They obviously just re-upped Kirk Cousins for another year. But I actually had Kellen Mond and Trey Lance tied for, I believe it was QB5. I had it Wilson, Fields, Lawrence, Jones, and then fifth with Mond, just a hair above Trey Lance, and that's why I really considered him tied. So that is kind of where I stood there. Bear True saying Brunskill getting snaps at center too. Yeah, and if anybody wants to talk about the 49ers line, go watch Daniel Brunskill as a guard last year. It wasn't pretty. Clearly the weakest spot of their line. And you want to talk about, they invested a second-round pick in Aaron Banks last year, and the guy played, I think, like 8 snaps. It wasn't good. Tevin Jenkins, you got more out of Tevin Jenkins last year than you did Aaron Banks. So only true degenerates bet preseason football. Yeah, where's Tooch? Tooch is definitely like he's at the sports bookie right now, throwing down $100 for whatever prop bet he can find at the end of the game. Don Raiders O-line looking like Bears. Yeah, I mean, sure, we'll see. Samir looked good. No worries, Jordan. You're shy. I appreciate it. J2K, Jeremy, I appreciate you tuning in. Went outside to take a hit, and damn skunk was staring at him. Aldo, if you're enjoying, the Devil's Lettuce, come join me. We can shoot the shit and talk about whatever. I'm interested in. This is going to be just the most loose, free show. You are welcome to ask questions, tune in, do whatever you want. This is Kid at a Candy Store. Football started. I don't have much of an agenda. I tried to put together something last minute. Work's been crazy, but I'm here to talk about anything football, NFL, Bears, you name it. I'm just going to have a good time, and that's what this is about. Okay, skunk wheat, yeah. Skunk wheat, yes. Fuckers in the bushes. I love it. Cornelius said, yeah, Leonard Floyd's no Robert Quinn. I agree. They're very different players. And my goodness, when I sat and said I was just having a good time laughing, rolling through comments, look who the hell decided to show up.
Hi, buddy.
What's up, bro? How are you?
I'm sorry, man. It was a long bathroom break I had to take.
That's okay. We're just going to keep it honest and shoot the shit here. Dan, how are you tonight?
I'm excellent, Jordan. How are you, man? I didn't mean to leave you hanging there. You got it all? You're good? Do you want me to leave? Did you have it?
Well, let's ask the chat. Do I have it? I think they're going to be like, is Jordan high? What is going on tonight? We're just going to chat, just fucking around.
Freestyling?
100%. But this is what I love. I got people asking me what I think of Trey Lance and everything. And it's
awesome, man.
That's why we got Cliff here talking about cheesecake, and he's cooking cheesecake on a sous vide cooker. It's great. We got Dub over here talking about wrecking Chit, Chicago.
Detroit is about to wreck shit.
Yeah. Well, we got, Agent Hutchinson's a beast killing it in camp. Well, Don, that may be true. Just to fuel your fire a little bit, the clip that was going around was Penei Sewell just completely erasing and neutralizing Aiden Hutchinson. So kudos to your former first-round pick last year, but that doesn't look good when you picked Aiden Hutchinson number 2 and Penei Sewell's just owning his ass.
I was going to say, if Hutchinson's killing it in camp, that's because he's going against a shitty offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
I love it.
Sorry, Don Bear.
J2K Jeremy, do I think Travis Gibson could be kind of that Robin to Quinn's Batman? Here's the thing. I actually think very highly of Travis Gibson, a guy that had 8 sacks last year. People want to sleep on him. And he had 8 sacks in a reserve role. And I understand he had much more snaps than a traditional reserve role because Khalil Mack was out. But to answer your question, I think it could be that. But I don't think you're going to see that because that is not what this defense is. This defense is everybody gets a square of the pie. And Travis, you're going to get some snaps. And then the moment that you tap the helmet and say, I need a breather, Al-Qadim Muhammad's coming in, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and throw Snowden in or Dominic Robinson in, and it's just going to be about keeping people fresh. And Don, I'm going to kind of throw you a little bit of a favor here. The thing that people sleep on with Detroit is that Detroit has 3 or 4 waves of killers. The Bears do not have that, and I will give that to the Lions. But what the Bears are going to try to do is play very similar to the Lions in that respect, where we're just going to try to cycle out waves of defensive line and keep them fresh so that when it's 3rd and 8, Robert, get out there at 100% and just go whoop Penei Sewell's ass for a sack. That's the goal. What say you, Dan? I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot tonight. I'm just excited.
No, I was agreeing. I was 100% agreeing with you. They're going to keep the rotation going so that the players are fresh constantly on defense. That's going to be the key to keeping the defense healthy, keeping the defense fresh, keeping the plays keeping everyone playing at their maximum, right? Everyone playing at 100%. So the plays, you're going to get a lot more 100% on a lot more plays, right?
Absolutely. And so, and we're talking about, let's see how Josh McDaniels does now that he's older and wiser. Yeah, let me put it this way. The Raiders, with a total firestorm around them last year, found a way to ride it into the playoffs with Henry Ruggs' situation, Deshaun Jackson being signed. It was literally Deshaun Jackson, Zay Jones, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller. That was their receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Josh McDaniels is going to come in, and he's already working with a much more full cupboard than what they had in Denver when he started. I think that they're going to have a good year, but as I've tried to tell my friend Nick, who's a diehard Raiders fan, and it's not like I don't like throwing shade. It's not. I'm not sitting here ever trying to down anybody else's team, but this is the whole thing. I mean, this goes to the Dolphins and the Jets fans, to the Raiders and the Broncos fans, to the AFC North with the Bengals and the Ravens and the Steelers. You are playing in a hellaciously hard division. And yes, it's only 6 other games out of your 17, I understand. But everybody knows that those division games wear on you like no other. And what is it going to look like? And this goes to the Denver, this goes to the Chiefs, it goes to any of them. What are you going to look like after going toe-to-toe with your hard division rivals who now have got Chandler Jones and Bradley Chubb's healthy? And, who did Denver? Denver added Russell Wilson and Khalil Max with the Chargers. And, wow, the Jets drafted all these guys. What does it look like? Von Miller's with the Bills now. I mean, we can go down the list. What does it look like after you go six games toe-to-toe with those guys? What are you healthy? Are you beat up? What does it look like getting into the playoffs? And that's my whole point, that you say what you want, but the North is a much, much easier division. We'll see. It could be tough. I think the Lions are going to be a hard out. I think the Vikings are good, but Green Bay has been known to be soft. Let's be real. Their defense is much better now, but they get stomped every year in the playoffs because they play soft.
Can I add that it's only going to get easier because if the Bears move to a domed stadium, it's going to be left with just the Packers with the outdoor stadium. Yep. So any games that are played in Green Bay, in that Green Bay weather at that time, the wrong time, that other half of the year, is only going to benefit that team even more. So it's only going to make what you were just saying. Were you just saying that the NFC North was?
It's easier than other divisions.
Right, and it's just going to get easier with that. Once that happens, it's going to happen. So it's going to suck because it's going to be Green Bay left with the one stadium that doesn't have a dome.
Absolutely. I mean, I tend to agree with you, Dan, for posterity's sake. I don't think that they're going to have some retractable dome. I think it's just going to be a closed-in stadium. And I don't know.
Did you see the idea that was posted by the mayor for I kind of like that idea, but not for Soldier Field, like a Soldier Field remake. Like I almost like that idea for the Arlington Heights. Not to get off subject, but if they did something like that for their new stadium, that almost might be cool. If it was kind of an open air, but the snow didn't fall onto the field, kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, it's it's free flow. We can talk about anything. I listen, I've talked about it before. We've talked about it before, Dan. It's probably in their best interest to move to Arlington Heights. It's fine, but I'm just talking about Fantasyland here.
I know. I'm sorry. I got off track on you.
No, it's okay. I wish that the Bears had. It's not possible. That's why we're talking about it. But in my idealized fantasy world, if I could, I wish the Bears could find a way to not only buy Soldier Field, but I wish that there was a way to expand that lakefront property. That's what the issue is. Even if people have said, well, if you sold Soldier Field to the Bears, that would be enough to keep them. Not really. The whole problem is that the stadium is not only old, it needs renovation, it's too small. Okay, we'll expand it. That doesn't work.
And even though they actually the columns are no longer a historical monument on paper, because they did take that away for them to be able to build the stadium with inside of it, they still can't just tear them down. So in some fashion, those still do have to remain there because they are technically a historical monument that is not on paper as a historical monument. So you take away that portion of land that you can't put the stadium in. I'm sorry that I didn't mean to get you off subject on this. So you were talking about other things, but if you're talking about the land size, so now they have to move the stadium outside of that and turn that into like a park of some sort, right? Where the stadium used to be almost.
Yep.
So there's not enough land left over for them to, and what would it cost them to buy it from them if they sold it to them?
No, you're right. And I mean, as I'm telling you, I love this. This has been a little bit not difficult. We have a good time, Dan, but I just wanted to kind of a shit show party now that football's back. And
yeah, it's like let's just celebrate, right? Like let's just freestyle it, right?
And
you freestyling it?
Who should we celebrate with, Dan? Tell me. The maestro?
James Dean?
Is it the maestro? Let's see. Oh shit! Oh shit! It's the maestro.
Cheers, everybody!
Hey, I'm gonna dap you up here. Well,
cheers! Cheers, Aldo! I finally get to speak to you in person.
How about that?
How are you doing, Aldo?
I'm doing great, man. I just stopped by to say hi, and if you guys want to talk a little football, I was at camp. I can share the feeble thoughts that I have about the team.
I'm sure we both have lots of questions for you about that.
And I got a lot of questions for you, too, so this could be fun.
Well, okay. Aldo, thank you so much for joining. I'm telling you, I'm doing my best take of what Dan and Aldo bare their souls are, which we're doing a hangout. We're shooting the shit. We're going to see where this goes. And so Aldo,
I love it too. This is great.
Yeah.
I'll start with you. Tell me, I mean, I can ask you 100 questions about Bears camp, but I would just let roll. Tell me whatever you feel like telling me about Bears camp.
Yeah, let's hear it, man.
All right. Well, I'd like to start with the facility itself. You know, they practice over at Field 1 and 2, which is close to where it's adjacent to where the players stay, where the training room is, workout room, and so forth. And it's all very, very beautiful. My only problem with it is that the experience at Bourbonnais was much bigger. It allowed for more people. You know, on a Saturday afternoon when the Bears had promised for the upcoming season, you would get 25,000 people in there. Now you're getting 1,200 people, so there isn't that energy, unfortunately. So that from that standpoint, it's a little bit disappointing. I'll be at Fields 3 and 4 next week when I stop by camp, so I'll report on what that looks like. I'm looking forward to seeing the other part of the property. You know, overall, it's just gorgeous. But from a fan perspective, a fan experience, it's not like it was over at Bourbonnais, which is triple the space and triple the amount of concession stands and things like that. So I was a little disappointed with that. From a football standpoint, there was a marked improvement, in my opinion, with the offense from the first day that I went on Tuesday to the second day on Wednesday. There was much more crispness in the offense. Justin Fields is still, in my mind, having a problem holding on to the ball too long. But when he was, and I think a lot of that had to do with there wasn't anybody to throw with. It's not like I noticed he had a wide open guy over there. Actually, on one play, he did have Cole Kmet wide open down the left hashes, but he missed him. But outside of that, the defense is definitely got the edge as expected. Jordan and Mr. Shorty would I'm sure agree with that right away. But the offensive line from the tackle position, I've always thought that the interior of the offensive line was the Bears' strength. It might actually be the tackles this year. So I wanted to bring that up to Jordan to get kind of his thoughts as to could the offensive tackle position for the Chicago Bears surprise us and maybe outplay, outshine, get a better reputation than the interior of the line?
Well, That's what's amazing. And that's before I answer your question, although kind of the thing I want to ask you is the biggest report that I've heard that I've thought, okay, I think that paying attention too closely to training camp can be a little bit misconceiving. The thing that I've heard, though, that has alarmed me a little bit is that the story you hear is Justin Fields is under siege. He literally has 2 seconds to throw. He's getting sacked in any real game. He's never going to have a chance. Did you feel like that was a real concern, something you noticed all the time?
No, not all the time. I truly believe that because there are so many changes going on and they're tasting a player at this position and tasting a player at that position, and there isn't a great familiarity with the guy who you're lining up with to your left or right or what have you. I think that's the problem. I'm not really worried that much about the offensive line based on what I saw on Wednesday. I thought at times they were doing a good job. And as Skokes pointed out to me, and everyone knows that, Braxton Jones is Skokes' guy. Well, Braxton Jones is living up to that love that he's getting from Skokes. I mean, as Skokes pointed out to me, there were 3 consecutive plays where Braxton just did an outstanding job on Robert Quinn. And those were the sequences that just really gave me great encouragement, because I thought to myself, if I'm getting a taste of this on 2 or 3 or 4 consecutive plays, then this isn't the catastrophe that people are pointing it out to be. And the same thing with the wide receiver position. Yes, it is a outside of Darnell Mooney, it's a bag of guys who have been around the league and have struggled for stardom or struggled to play to expectations. But nonetheless, what I saw here is a rejuvenated wide receiver core, a wide receiver core that has confidence in itself. And who knows, we might be surprised. And Equanimous St. Brown, as one of the questions I had, another one of the questions I had for you guys. I believe in this guy. I saw enough, with the exception of that fumble. He caught a really nice pass on a crossing pattern. And then I neglected to catch the number of the safety that hit him, or maybe it was a corner, and he fumbled. But outside of that, Equanimous St. Brown was looking good. And in the special teams drills, he also looked good. They had him lined up in that kind of outside position. Jordan might know the gunner, right? And his get off and that size that he has, he could be a very, very valuable special teams player. But I am going out on a limb and predicting that he might be wide receiver number 2, opposite of Darnell Mooney.
Wow.
So far, Pringle hasn't shown much at all. And it's not to say that that's going to be a wasted acquisition, not by any means. I have lots of faith that Pringle is going to have a very productive season. But so far in camp, we're seeing more out of Equanimous St. Brown than we're seeing out of Pringle.
Wow. All those dropping nuggets, and I love it.
I love being here with you guys.
How many practices have you been to?
Yeah, I've been to 2, and I'll be to 2 next week. I'll be to Family Fest at Soldier Field on Tuesday, and then on Thursday I'll be there for camp, which will be in fields 1 and 2, no 3 and 4. So I'm anxious for that experience.
Oh man, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've talked about so much, and I mean, I'll try to kind of parse through it. To answer your first question, it's so hard because, man, the whole Tevin situation is its own thing, and it bothers me. But I have to throw some roses at Skokes' feet for the Braxton Jones. He's the president of the fan club. Braxton Jones should send him an autographed jersey and some cleats. The whole deal. I mean, let's be very clear. Let's give him his roses. Skokes, if anybody ever tries to claim that they were on Braxton Jones before you send them my way, and I'll set them straight, because
exactly.
you and it's to be clear. I will never sit here and try to tell anybody that I was as high on him as Skokes was. I didn't have any problem with him. I think it's a small school thing that always worries me a little bit. The competition level he's playing, that's the Trey Lance thing, even I was talking about earlier. And this is the thing, and I think you'll probably agree to this, Aldo. And maybe I heard Skokes told me he was getting pushed in the run game, but it's never been a pass pro issue with him. He's got the length. He's got quick feet. It's what they did in college. It's actually, though, the run game. Can he push people? Can he displace people?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real question I think I have at the moment.
And I can't comment on the quality of his run blocking because I every time I was looking at him, it was on a pass play, and frankly, they were throwing probably 65% of the time. But that's the only thing, Jordan, that could keep him on the bench, because I suspect that this team is going to be really run heavy, at least for the first quarter of the season. Because that's going to be their strength. I mean, offensive linemen, Jordan, you can talk about this. Offensive linemen like to go forward, not to go back. Yeah. And so run blocking is the more effective. And if they can get the play action going, that run game can be very, very productive for the Chicago Bears and get those passes now and then. So my concern is if Braxton Jones just doesn't improve on his run blocking, then that's perhaps why he might be displaced out of the starting spot. But right now, he looks like a really strong candidate for left tackle. Riley Reif at the right tackle position, which is really, I don't think you guys would argue with me, and probably Don Burr would, because Don Burr likes to argue with everybody. But I think the right tackle is Riley Reif's best position. When he played left tackle at Detroit, I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of controversy about whether he was a bust at first, and he started to improve his play. But when he moved over the right tackle, I want to say it was the last couple of seasons, starting with the Vikings, that's where his play really improved, and there weren't many complaints about him. So we'll see what's going to happen with Braxton Jones. I got a feeling that he is fighting right now for a left tackle position.
I mean, sure enough, right on cue.
Can I talk?
Yes, please.
Jesus fucking Christ, guys. So
this is material right here.
So should I leave? You guys want a bromance over here? What's so? When they drafted Braxton Jones, the first time they trucked him out there and he spoke, I was like, "Holy shit, this kid looks so intelligent that I can see him taking this job." I really could. My brain projected into the future then and said, I can see him taking this job at the left tackle, maybe at some point in his rookie year. And then you're saying this shit to me right now. It's like making my head explode, because I mean, if that's the case, that'd be awesome. I mean, of course, Jordan, you and I want to huddle up into a fetal position in the tub like
about
Ventura about Tevin Jenkins, but we can just get past that for now and just put him out of our heads, and then we can talk about just moving forward with, if Braxton Jones was a legitimate option at left tackle, that opens up so many things for the offensive line. Even if you're in a pinch, like if Schofield goes down, you have to put Borum at right guard, kind of a thing. If Riley Reif can stick at right tackle and remain healthy, to me, it's kind of it's something you can kind of look forward to, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and I mean, the thing that I got to say.
Thanks for letting me talk, guys. I'll leave now.
That's enough.
Yeah. That's enough.
You're done. You had your 15 seconds.
You pipe down. No, I'm kidding. But it's the funny thing.
On you next time.
The funny thing about Braxton is, and I'm not here to dispute it, like Skokes is saying. Yeah, I watched multiple of his interviews. I think he's incredibly well spoken, very eloquent in his speech. That's excellent. I'm not here to listen. I mean, I think one of the things, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I think I speak very well. I that's one of those things that it helps your presentation. People judge you when they first meet you on the way that you dress and the way that you talk. It's just factual. It's what it is. But let's be very clear. Your speech has nothing to do with your play. It literally doesn't.
Of course not. But you can tell he's intelligent is what I meant by
it.
Like, so I thought that by the way he speaks proves his intelligence, right? Like, you can tell you're a little bit more intelligent than us, right, Jordan?
Well, no, I wouldn't.
Absolutely, right?
Clearly, right? So
Foremost
we have
ball knower.
Aldo and I have a little bit more meatball in us, and you have like a little bit more, computer science in you.
That's right.
And so it helps you. It to what you're saying. It's the presentation. He comes out wearing his glasses, like all three of us are wearing now, right? and he's talking eloquently, as you do, Jordan, right? It looks good. So you're like, this kid's fucking smart. He's gonna figure this out quickly. And then Aldo's like, oh look, he was awesome at pass protect.
No,
what
you're
I
right.
saw.
And this is the thing. I mean, Aldo, what I was going to say before, and thank God you shut us the hell up, Shorty, because I was just going to keep going. You feel free to do that, whatever you want. The thing I was going to say, Aldo, that I hope Bears fans understand, and it's not my favorite. I don't love the zone scheme. I much prefer gap scheme because you want to know where my meatball is. I'm not a meatball in real life, but where my meatball is in football. Mm-hmm. This is why I like Tevin Jenkins, because I like dudes that plant you in the ground, tell you they lit you up like a Christmas tree, then they shove you in the face.
Glass.
Yeah. That's my type of football, and that's what gap scheme is. It's power, it's trap, it's ISO, it's duo. It's big bank take little bank. You want to stop us, then stop us. But we're going to sit you and drive you 5 yards off the ball, and then we're going to drag our nuts on your forehead at the end and tell you to get up and do it again. That's what I wish this was. Now, that's what Jordan wishes doesn't matter. And this is where we're going. The league loves the Shanahan-McVay scheme, the zone scheme. Everybody says wide zone. It's much deeper than that. It goes different layers. But when you have offensive linemen that are not great at run blocking, the thing that people need to realize, and this is where I think Braxton Jones may be why he's getting the chance and why they feel comfortable with him. We talked about this with Larry Borum. You don't have to be a body snatcher in this scheme. Really, the idea is, can you wall off a defender and create multiple little alleys to create cutback lanes?
Can you work in space?
Correct. And so it's that situation where even if Braxton isn't an ass kicker in the run game, he's athletic, he's got length. Can you get around, get in front of the defender, create a cutback lane off of your ass so that Herbert or Monty can cut it up? If you've done that, that's all I need. I don't need you to plant the guy in the ground.
Right.
And that's the beautiful part about this scheme. It's why even Larry Borum, to answer the final part of your question, Aldo, you had said, what about these tackles? We did the whole breakdown on Larry Borum. You know how strongly I feel about him as I'm showing film of him going against the best edges and acquitting himself quite well. So as much as Tevin Jenkins, I wish he was that guy, and it hurts me that he's not, I don't necessarily feel like the Bears are in such dire need, because even if those were your two guys, there's no denying that Riley Reif is a solid backup, and he may even start ahead of like a Larry Borum or a Braxton. So it's certainly not as dire as everybody wants to make it seem from the outside.
I thought they were bringing Reif in just for a backup spot, because like we talked about on Bears Country on Monday, that I thought Jenkins was the right tackle. And I thought they were bringing in Reif as an insurance policy for Borum at left. And then this whole Tevin thing. So
they may have thought that too.
Right.
Hey,
I'm sure they did. It's probably what they were doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Jordan, let me ask you, based on what you're saying about this blocking scheme, so is this scheme then better for a Sam Mustipher?
Well, I'd see thank you. Nobody literally wants to talk about this.
I know it's like the unspoken word. You can't say that name.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole thing with Bears fans. Is like you have Charles Leno was a douchebag. It's, no, like Charles Leno was serviceable. Yes. I mean, Sam Mustipher was bad last year.
Thank you.
Barlissimo, if you ever get the chance to hear this, I know you tune in occasionally. Barlissimo hates himself.
Yeah, but the thing that people forget about Charles Leno is that he was due another contract, and the Bears didn't want to pay that, and they would have been wrong to pay him that contract because he wasn't worth it for what he had done for the Bears. So they had to move on from him.
Exactly. Well, and so the thing with Mustipher, Aldo, that let me be clear, he did not play well last year. It was a bad year. And I mean, for anybody that knows me, I don't know how popular of an opinion this is. To me, it's without a doubt the most important positions on your offensive line, bar none. I don't care what team. Number one is your blindside tackle. It's not left tackle. It's whoever's on the blind side. So if that's Braxton or Riley, that's the guy. Left tackle in this scheme, because Justin Fields is a right-hander, That is numero uno as far as importance. The next one, without a doubt, is your center, the pivot. That's why I was high on Lucas Patrick. Mustafa as a center, no bueno. And the reason for that is because you face a lot of odd front teams nowadays. 3-4 schemes where you have big nose tackles, and he does not have the power to dig those guys out and move them. And then you're asking him to also be at a disadvantage. Hey, snap the ball and then somehow get in position while you're already undermanned, underpowered to do this.
But isn't it 6-1, half a dozen to another between him and Kramer with the power, as far as Patrick being out?
What do you mean?
Well, Kramer is known for not being very strong.
Yes.
And getting put on the ground a lot while he was in college, right? So if Mustafa has a strength, like a core issue that is his strength is not allowing him to play the position correctly, then it's just 6-1, half a dozen to another for the position, meaning it doesn't matter. So who's playing center if Patrick's out?
Well, and so that's the thing. And I mean, like Russell's saying, you better be careful. Olin will choke you out. I've reached out to Olin. He is not responding. I know I'm a nobody, but Olin,
I'm just going off of what people are saying. It's not my own personal opinion. I'm just and the narrative is that.
Listen, like this, I promise I'm gonna answer your question here, but the Olin part is crucial about this because Olin knows his stuff. Olin, you are welcome on any time because if there's one thing I feel comfortable talking about, it's line play. And I will he said nobody knows how to talk offensive line. I challenge him. Please come on, we can talk about it. Because I'm not as negative on Mustafa as many people. Olin talking about this is why people said, why would Mustafa be one of those guys that they retained? You let Alex Bars go, but you literally kept Lachavius Simmons and Sam Mustafa. People don't realize that Sam Mustafa, he may not be the strongest, he may not have good tape, but he certainly understands how to call protections playing center, and he's got inside versatility between the guard spots and the center. And so he can play some guard. And this is to your point, Aldo. If he doesn't have to be that guy digging out a big nose tackle, he can be the addition, the guy that flies upfield to get a hat on a linebacker in a zone scheme.
Yep.
Can he do that? He's athletic.
I have been thinking that myself as a guard, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And
you put him into motion. You drop a little bit of weight, put him into motion. I think he could be a good guard in this scheme.
Yeah, well,
I wasn't shitting on him when I was talking about him earlier, like a minute ago. I was just saying that's what the narrative of him is, and I agree with what you're saying, 100%. I really do.
Well, and so
that's why they kept him.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing is, I hate to be a little bit critical. I wasn't a big Doug Kramer fan. I didn't watch a ton of tape of his, but I still don't quite understand why he was. Listen, the Bears know more than me.
My best friend is a huge Illini fan. He watches he's like us with the Bears, but he's with the Illini. He says the same thing about Kramer.
Well, and my only thing is, look, I'm a nobody. I'm not a scout. The Bears know more about football than I'll ever forget. But to me, this is often how it's not that everybody knows everything, but look, if one person calls you a name, forget about it. 2 people call you the same name, maybe think about it. 3 people call you the name, you may very well be that thing. Right. Well, here's the thing. If Alec Lindstrom, who's got a brother in the league, Chris Lindstrom, who's a good guard, was there, and he went undrafted, I had him rated higher. I had Donovan West as a center out of ASU as a young player in the draft rated higher. Those are situations where I'm like, why Kramer when the name came up? And they do have a lot of the same issues. But clearly, the thing about Kramer that was so clear, and I know Swift's here who did a breakdown on Kramer, he is very much diet Tyler Linderbaum. Very much that zone center, kind of athletic, decent strength, pretty rough attitude, finds a way. He goes down far too much. That's what you don't want to see in an offensive lineman. But the reality is he does also find a way to get guys down with him, and that's got to count for something. So,
true.
We'll see. But I hope that answers your question, although I think Mustafa can be a guy, especially as a guard. As a center, no, that's not what you want. He's never going to win against Kenny Clark, Dexter Lawrence, Vita Vea, Akeem Hicks, any of these one-techs, Linval Joseph. But he can play guard and be successful.
I would think that's what we would all be rooting for, right? Although for Kramer to succeed at center and then we can move Mustafa around on the line there. If he has to play center again in a pinch, then so be it. But right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Shorty. Hey, Jordan, I answered this question from J2K Larson that Mustafa has the same specs as Garza. It's not his strength or size that is the issue. It's his leverage that gets him into trouble.
Well, I think that J2K Jeremy.
I think it's his ass strength. It's his ass, right?
Well, so the funny thing is that that's 100% correct. Listen, I mean, Cliff was saying Mustafa needs to get in the weight room. Look, I don't know, and this is the problem in Ross Tucker, that not that he's a total everything, but he knows offensive line, played in the league. A lot of people didn't think highly of Coach Castillo and didn't think that a lot of Greg Gabriel's the same way. Didn't feel like any of the offensive line were playing at their optimal weight and performance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you heard Mustafa last season talking about eating as much pizza as he could to put on the weight.
I thought, but what do you think?
And
that doesn't sound right.
And if you actually watch Mustafa, I do think strength was an issue. But again, we're talking about some of the best big, strong one-techs in the league. They'd eat most centers for breakfast anyways. And then you're talking about Mustafa already being undersized. Now, to answer J2K's point about Garza, there is a leverage issue. There were so many times where you would see Mustafa not only get blown off the ball, but whether it was his base or his footwork, he's getting removed from the play or deleted from the play because he's getting put on the ground, because he's getting tripped up, because his feet aren't square, because he's getting bowled back so much that, yes, if you can clean up that footwork, drop the ass, as you're saying, Shorty, dig people out, there's an opportunity there for him to play well.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
I agree, man.
Okay.
Okay. Next subject.
No, I mean, we can talk about anything, but I guess let me jump into the segment. It sounds so negative, like what Bears have the most to lose, and we can certainly talk about what Bears have the most to gain. But I always think it's an interesting topic to think about. Look, we're entering into a new season. It's proving time with a new staff. You got to be playing even if you're a starter. What happens if it doesn't go right for you? Who are the guys that better feel a little fire under their ass? And I've kind of got my list, but I'd like to pass it to, I guess we could start with you, Shorty, and then you, Aldo, and I'll kind of finish it off. Do you have certain guys that come to mind that you're like, oof, it's tight for them?
Mm-hmm.
Like people that I think need a fire lit under their ass?
People that have the most to lose, meaning, hey, you need to perform, otherwise it may not be the result you're looking for.
Yeah. Roster.
Yeah. I'm gonna start with well, okay, hold on a second. You put me on the spot because I wasn't expecting this question.
Fine.
So let me just give me 5 seconds. I'm just gonna say the first name that comes to mind, and I can think of the next one after that while we talk about it. Jalen Johnson.
Interesting. Okay, well, you know that if you're going to give me a name, I have to ask why. Why Jalen Johnson?
Oh, yeah, you got to ask why on Jalen.
Well, Jalen Johnson's going into a different scheme that I think fits him better. But he's also now like the proven veteran defensive back on that team other than Eddie Jackson, right? Eddie Jackson does have a lot to prove, but he's already proved it, right? And so he just has to reprove it. So for me, Jalen Johnson has the ability to take the next step to the next level. And I think that the secondary that they're adding Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker to the mix is only going to elevate him more. So I think he's going to take another step. And so I think if he does that, that's the key to the rest of the second or the defensive backfield taking that next step as well, including the rookies and Jackson. That's just off the top of my head. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. We'll go a couple rounds on this. I mean, because I think the reality is, and look, nobody wants to really talk about this, but the Bears have a lot to prove. I mean, look,
we've talked about this, Jordan. The secondary could be such a strength, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could.
If it is, then we're talking about, some of the Seahawks stuff you were making references to and stuff like that, right? So that's kind of where my brain goes with it. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Aldo, do you have a name that comes to mind?
Yeah, I will go with Michael Schofield. I don't think he's definitely a lock to be the starting right guard. And if they're, like I said about what I observed in practice, and I know, again, prefacing it's only a couple of days of practice, but the issues with the pass rush were in the interior of the line, and Schofield was playing both right and left guard, and so I'm a little bit worried about that. Cody Whitehair, we know who Cody Whitehair is. He's going to give you average pass blocking and probably a little bit better run blocking. I don't know if you agree with that, Jordan. I know you love offensive line play, so you can comment on that. But first, I just would like to say that Michael Schofield worries me a little bit because what I saw at practice and with the offensive line being collapsed up the middle. So that's the first name that comes to mind.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Did you see much of Jatire Carter?
Yeah, and he was out there with the second stringers, and not much positive to report from primarily the second day, because the first day I was at such a distance, they were in the opposite field, that it was really difficult to
I remember you saying that
study
about
line play.
Yeah.
So not a lot, but with those second stringers, the one guy that I really loved his play was Julian Davenport, the veteran. I saw him play both right and left tackle with the second stringers, and he was holding his own. Very good play by Julian Davenport.
Isn't it crazy how we're all looking at the offensive line now?
Yeah,
we have an offensive lineman for a general manager. Like, he's got to know what he's talking about. Everyone watch.
That's exactly right.
Well, it's funny enough. That's the thing that I have to continue to remind myself is, look, I pride myself on line play, but if you have to trust anything, look, and I have plenty to be critical about Ryan Poles with as far as the process, not the results. But if there's one thing that I have to trust that they know, it's offensive line. He and Ian Cunningham, and by extension, Chris Morgan, and it's. And this goes to your point, Shorty, is that we have to focus on it because whether you want to admit it or not, it's the lifeblood of your team. It's the lifeblood of your offense. There's a reason why Jalen Hurts isn't an amazing quarterback in year 2, but they found a way to the playoffs, and it's because they had an offensive line.
Starts in the trenches.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it does. It's the reality. It's what keeps you relevant. So I got to say, I am happy none of you stole my pick, but the chat was on it before I could get to it. I can't help the name that comes to mind immediately is Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson is a guy.
I was close, though. I was so close. You're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
He was really close.
Eddie Jackson is a guy to me that, look, I hope he returns to form, and I actually think he has every reason to. But it's more about, we're talking about what do you have to lose? He's finally getting to a point in his contract where it's pretty restrictive. There's an out after this year. Yep. And this safety is this defense, this scheme is ran through the spine. That means that safety matters.
Yep.
And I understand we see Jaquan Brisker as a strong safety. Don't get me wrong. He is. But he moves backwards just as well as he moves forward. So Eddie Jackson needs to have a good year, because if not, they can easily say, look, you're expensive. You didn't play up to standards. It's an important part of our scheme. Let's get you off the books. We can either draft a replacement. Elijah Hicks may come on. We can move Brisker into your spot and bring Dane Cruikshank up as a full-time player, sign somebody. I think that that's a position where he has to perform because he has a ton to lose. He may be on the streets next year if he does not perform up to standard. And look, we're going on, what has it been, 3 years since the 2018 season where he looked like an all-pro? We're talking about a lot of leeway that's been given to him, and he needs to show that, look, I am worthy of this contract.
It's funny because as I was going, Jalen Johnson, my brain went, fucking Eddie Jackson, damn it. And I was like, You said it. Go ahead and roll with it.
We had to give that one to Jordan. Bird Truth 9 is saying, "All the kid, get into my office, you're fired," because it's definitely Eddie Jackson. I knew it was Eddie Jackson. I just wanted Jordan to talk about it.
And everybody thinks I'm an Eddie Jackson hater. I certainly look. He does a lot more good than people realize. Safety.
Jordan? I mean, everyone's been an Eddie Jackson hater for like the last couple of years. You don't have to say that. Like,
well,
everyone has been in the same boat.
You'd be surprised. There's a few.
He got his contract and he digressed.
There's a few people in the media that, I mean, and I respect Brandon Robinson being one of them, Robert Schmitz, a few others that would tell you, and I agree with this. If you want to know my weakness in scouting, I love safety. It's although knows I'm willing to have a debate with Danny Shimon about how important safeties are. But if there's a weak spot in my scouting, I find scouting safeties to be the most difficult position on the field.
Mhm.
It sounds like it's easy to understand what they do. They are literally the last line of defense. They have to come up and fit the run. They have to not bite on crossing routes. They have to be deep enough. They're literally, and especially in today's game where it's a passing
Smart
game,
enough.
they are the green dot on the back of the helmet. Jordan Fuller was wearing that last year for the Rams, and Eric Weddle came in after him and did it. They are the traffic controller.
Mhm.
And so it is, Eddie Jackson acquits himself better than people realize. But the reality is when you make that money, we can't have plays where Jamar Chase catches a touchdown in week 2 and you over pursue and miss the tackle. When Van Jefferson catches a bomb and you don't touch him down and he walks in, that is, look, I may not be the best safety scout, but that's very clear to see that you're not doing your job.
This is how I kind of look at football players, right? And in life, there are leaders and there are followers, and it goes throughout the board in life. There are leaders and there are followers, right? And you need to have, your team needs to be made up of leaders at the certain positions that you need to lead with.
Mhm.
And then if you can make up your team full of a bunch of leaders, well, then you've got a team of a bunch of people trying to like outdo each other, right? Because they're all trying to lead. They're all trying to be the alpha dog, right? And the more of those that you get on your team, the better your team is going to be. And what I'm seeing with what the Bears have done this year, just in the draft and in their free agency, they've signed a lot of leaders, and hopefully it's going to translate onto the field to where they're all helping to lead each other, and they're all trying to like vibe for that leading spot, which only helps the team, especially when you're in this atmosphere of just going 1,000% all the time. You know what I mean?
Yep. And then J2K, real quick here. I mean, you're asking a good question here. Can either Eddie or Brisker go deep or be in the box? I mean, the thing is if I went over Eberflus's film, they would move both safeties down in the box and roll them and rotate them. And I think that you will see that. But let me be clear. I don't think that that's Eddie's best position. You want to maximize your players and put them in the right position. Don't shove a square peg into a round hole. If you're seeing Eddie roll up, I would imagine it's because he's taking the slot receiver on, let's say, a 2x2 or a 3x1, one of those, carrying the vertical route, where if you're carrying Brisker up, he can certainly fit the run and bring the wood. And you'll see those rotate. And, I mean, this is the beautiful part about Brisker. I'll challenge anybody to this. Everybody thinks of him as this box safety because he says he loves it. That's why I love him. But he's instinctive. There's a reason he gets his hand on the ball and he's picking off Justin Fields when he's throwing to Cole Kmet. He plays and understands with his instincts how to play deep, how to be the center fielder.
I saw your clip when the Bears drafted him.
Look, I mean, it was my favorite pick of the draft in the second.
Oh my God, you were so excited.
Yeah, I mean, and for those
that me like jump out of my seat, like, yeah, I agree.
I mean, for those that don't know, like I was pretty. It's on the internet. You can go to the Irish Bear Show, friend of the channel. Day 2 of the draft, I was there the whole stream. I was okay with the Kyler Gordon pick. Wasn't so happy, wasn't so sad. Just okay, that makes sense. They have a need at corner. I was desperately hoping that they'd get an Alec Pierce or a receiver. But if you were going to pick one guy that wasn't that, Brisker was the name. He's a guy that he fell. Look, the problem with him is that he fell under the rug because Kyle Hamilton took a little bit of a slide. He was my number 1 player in the draft, and I know that there's some shit on him because he got burned in practice. I think you'll see him employed correctly with Mike McDonald, as the defensive coordinator. Lewis Seen and Dax Hill ended up kind of jumping the board where Jaquan Brisker didn't. And it's not that Jaquan Brisker's a worse player. Jaquan Brisker was playing with a bad shoulder all of last year. And so he's compromised, but still had the heart to say, I want to go out there and play for my team, and put it out there with Tariq Castro-Fields and Arnold Ebiketie and Brandon Smith and all the other Penn State defense players that they had. Mm-hmm. And it ended up, look, Penn State doesn't get the shine. Michigan was in the final college playoffs. Guess who's there? Dax Hill. Lewis Seen, Georgia, big player in the playoffs. You're going to see Lewis Seen there. It ended up pushing a player like Jaquan Brisker down, which is why I'm not shocked to hear the Bears when they leak their, well, they didn't leak it, they put it out, but they're behind the scenes of the draft where it's pick 39 and they're talking about, hey, if it's Brisker, it's Brisker. We'll take him at 39. And the only reason they didn't is because Kyler Gordon was there. They didn't think he'd be there.
Right.
That's how highly you think of a guy of Brisker's stature. So when I saw them take him at 48, I couldn't help myself, and I exploded on the stream.
It was awesome to see.
Yeah, it's just I have such high hopes for him. He's a guy that I sleep easy at night knowing that he's in the secondary.
So do I. He's blown up practice, man. I mean, did you see any of that at practice, Aldo?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they're talking about him like he's a Hall of Famer. I mean,
it's true, and deservedly so. I mean, he looked fantastic. He is definitely. I mean, this has become virtually a can't miss player. His ability to play inside and out, and he loves to play inside the box. You know, how many safeties? How many safeties that can you find who are adept at ball hawking the ball and also love to hit? You know, those are rare, and he is that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like what's his name from the 49ers back in the day, almost a modern version of that.
Thinking about Dante Whitner?
No, 49ers, 80s.
Ronnie Lott.
Yes, thank you.
Ronnie Lott.
That's like a modern day Ronnie Lott.
He lost one of his fingers, right?
Yeah, and Ed said, "I don't care, I'll keep playing."
Amazing player.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's just amazing. And I mean, one of the things that I wanted to bring up here before we move on to, I know we're getting late in the show, and it's 12:30 where Dan is, and 11:30 for you or Aldo. We'll talk about Getsy here, but. To the three of us, what kind of impact will Khalil Herbert have in the outside zone run scheme this season? Should we see more carries from him? What is his productivity going to look like this year?
Excited about that. I'm very excited about that.
Then take the lead, Dan.
So Monty's very shifty, so he's going to find all the different. He's going to find the different gaps in the scheme that he's running in. Right, he might be having to run into like the B gap or the C gap, but he'll cut back to the A gap, right? But Herbert, he's going to hit that C gap if that's his gap, and he's going to hit it with full force and run right through everybody because he has that quick burst of speed that's just going to take him right through that gap. And he's just following orders, right? Money likes to like improvise. Herbert likes to follow orders. I'm going right through that hole. I see it. I'm gone. I'm excited about that. It's going to add a different element to the offense to have the two of them going back and forth. And I'm such a meatball. Like I want to see them run some frickin' T formation again, man. Like let's just put up Blazing Game and Monty and Herbert, and let's run a fucking T formation out of the wide zone. What can you do with your poor tackle play if there's poor tackle play going on, right? You can add some blocking with Blazing Game in that zone scheme, right? You start to open up all these gaps, and all of a sudden you have fullback taking out a linebacker, fullback taking out even a defensive end. Blazing Game can do that, right? So if you can work that correctly, I mean, why the hell should we bring? I know I'm just being a meatball right now, but why the hell can't we possibly bring back the T formation in this offense?
Well, Matt Nagy ran it for his very first play with the Chicago Bears, so that's probably why we shouldn't bring it back.
Well, it's the only reason why I do love Matt Nagy. That's the only love in my heart that I have for Matt Nagy is that he came out against Green Bay and ran the T formation with his first play, but he didn't have the personnel for it.
No, he didn't.
This team does.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, guys. Come on, just humor me.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, before I answer the question,
Jordan's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what do you think? Do you think that the T formation should be something that in the playbook?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of I'm not high, but if I was smoking some weed, I'll spin this out because this is my.
You're in a legal state. You should be.
This is my maniac brain. And Swanky, I just want to put this out for you, Swanky, because stick around when we get into Getsy film. You're gonna bust if that's what you're looking for because it's all over the film. But I mean, to answer your question, this is my maniac brain when I wish things would go a certain way. Look, I'm hoping the Bears are successful. I think if they are too successful, we've talked about this. Luke Getsy is a guy that he'll pick up steam and become a head coach. He was already getting interviews this year.
2 years from now, he'll be gone.
Well, and if he was gone next year, I know people don't like this, and I think it's because Lamar is also not a pure passer, not a wonderful. He's got a rocket arm, but I think touch and layering the ball into areas like that are not his suit. I love Greg Roman. I was the guy that was willing to say, I'll take Greg Roman and Joe Ortiz as a GM head coach combo, the way that like Joe Shane and Brian Dable were in New York. That's a guy that runs pistol, that runs eye, that runs wishbone, that runs anything that's exotic in the run game. A lot of people say that Kyle Shanahan's the most exotic. And don't get me wrong, he is the most exotic of the zone scheme. Well, I've just talked about what I prefer. Greg Roman is as nice as it gets when it comes to gap power scheme and just bullying people. And that's why the Ravens have been so successful in that, whether it's been Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, they just push people around. Yeah. I mean, they've got a fullback that's literally a D lineman. So if for some reason Luke Getsy were gone, that would be a guy I'd bring in and expect to see the T. As far as the T formation, maybe, but I don't think you're going to see it so much. Because you don't see it in McVay, you don't see it in Shanahan.
I have no backing on this. I know. I'm just. Yeah. Even Barlissimo shot me down. I'm just trying to find someone to go, yeah, that might work. I did talk to Shanahan. How about that?
But yeah, so again, and I did say I would do a football 101 portion of the show. I'll leave the chat. I mean, chat's open. If you have any questions about scheme, team building, cap, players, anything under the sun. I mean, I'm literally able to recall Ronnie Lott's name out the back of my head from the 80s and 90s. Anything you want to talk about, drop it in the chat, and I will get to it at the end, because what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Getsy's film and the importance of ending the show at a hopefully reasonable time by the time we get through it. And
before you go there, Jordan, I'd like to comment on that question regarding touches for Herbert.
Yes, sorry.
No problem. I quickly looked up what the touches were last season in 2021. Let me share the screen here. Oh, darn. Can I do it now? Yeah, I think so. Here it comes. So here are touches, 381 for Najee Harris. Unbelievable. He'll probably get 400 this year. But going down to the end of the scale here, you got Aaron Jones with 223 touches and A.J. Dillon with 221 touches. I see a similar scenario with the Bears, with David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. And I think that might be a more effective way to use those guys. Let's see how many touches Montgomery had last year. He had 267. So he's on this list right about, where are you? 267. So that's way up here. David Montgomery, probably 7th or 8th on the list. So I'd love to see the touches, not necessarily the carries, the touches spread out evenly, because imagine getting Khalil Herbert the ball on a bubble screen or a crossing pattern. The guy can create yards alone with his speed and his excellent field vision. So you've got these two tremendous players. Let's get them as many touches as possible. Let's continue to move the chains. That's the kind of offense I think we're going to see in 2022 for the Bears under Getsy.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible answer there. Although, and I guess I'll dovetail off that a little bit to give my perspective on it. I think it can. I mean, look, it sounds like I'm riding the fence. Nobody knows, but I think it can go in a variety of ways. Where, I mean, somebody was saying here. Oh, Cliff, great answer. Use Monty and Herbert as Green Bay uses their backs. Why not? I mean, in many ways, it does seem similar. Like, look, A.J. Dillon is the David Montgomery, thicker back, more powerful. Aaron Jones, Khalil Herbert, a little more, slice and dice you. The problem is I don't think that they're as identical as it seems. I mean, anybody go watch A.J. Dillon. The guy's he's literally 245, 250. He's in many ways, he's what Leonard Fournette's great. I don't mean to crap on him, but everybody's giving him a hard time, or Eddie Lacy back with the weight issue.
Well, he's 245, but like 200 of that is his thighs.
Yeah, like he is just a monster. It's built the right way, and Monty is not that. Montgomery is a great running back in his own right. I mean, somebody's saying he may be overrated. I think, somebody also was saying in the chat that, it was Skokes. I love Monty, but he dances too much. I actually think that that's often misconstrued. People assume he's dancing. He's a patient runner. I'd encourage you, go back and watch a Le'Veon Bell or any of these other.
Say Le'Veon Bell, yes.
I mean, he's a patient runner. He's looking for the right lane, and he feels, and look, this is, I mean, I'll bring a little bit of a side. Justin Fields, I've often talked about, when you're the best athlete on the field your whole life, you think you're Superman and you can bust through any sack and make a play. Montgomery is the guy that realizes, I have one superpower. My superpower is that I fight through contact. I don't go down on the first attempt. So I can afford to be patient, dance around, try to find the right lane, and I'll dodge a few tackles and still fall forward for 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, maybe they'll try to hurry him up and coach him up to, hey, just hit the hole. I actually think, and this just goes back to kind of the grandfather of this scheme, with Mike Shanahan down to Kyle and everybody. One is they kind of roll with the hot hand. When you have a running back that's playing well, they tend to go there, but they also like to mix it up. When we need to beat you up and push the ball, we'll hit you with Eli Mitchell, for example, last year. And then we want to get a little bit of slice and dice. Let's put Jermichael Hasty in and throw him a screen and see what happens. And I think you're going to see that where it can go a variety of ways. They could wear Monty's tires out because, look, this is the last year. We're not going to pay him, ride him to the dirt. I don't think that's the case. I also think he's a leader, so he's going to be the first guy out there, be the starter, which is going to be different than the Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon thing. I mean, Aaron Jones is a starter without a doubt there. The change of pace is the bruising back in A.J. Dillon. It's going to be the opposite for sure in Chicago.
Right.
But I think that what you're going to see, and this goes to the Ebner point, which I've heard great things about in camp too, you're going to have Montgomery, and last week, Shorty, we talked about him kind of being that Marshawn Lynch type runner. The guy that just says, I'm going to run in your face and just bash you and bash you and bash you and bash you. And then once you're kind of mushed meat, then we're going to put Herbert in or Ebner in and see if they can break a long one. Because if I just told you Monty's,
I love the mushed meat reference.
Yeah. If I can tell you that Monty's superpower is contact balance, the one superpower he does not have is breakaway speed. We've seen it. It just doesn't exist unless he's playing the Texans, which are one of the worst teams in the league, because everybody's going to show me that highlight with Mitch back in, 2020, where he got the 70-yard run. That's against an awful defense.
Oh, come on, man. He's broken away more than you're thinking of. I know what you're saying. He doesn't have breakaway speed that we all can remember, like
how the Rams
work in college. Huh?
First play of the season last year against the Rams. Daylight ahead of him.
Okay, he got caught. He got caught from behind, but there's been like 3 other times where he completely broke free and got all the way. Okay, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, he is.
I'm just trying to work. He's been working on his speed, and I do think he has gotten faster. So I'm trying to defend that, but yeah, he has gotten caught from behind a lot. But at least he got that far. I guess is my point.
I can play his Combine 40 for you if you want to be convinced.
No, thank you. I'm wrong.
Okay, just in case you want to see it.
Okay, what is it?
Guess 4.64.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. Not
okay.
Too impressive.
Answer one question before we move to Getsy.
Thank you, Aldo.
I mean, just saying.
So yeah, Jordan, he's not that fast.
But I mean, look, he's got a lot of other redeeming qualities.
Absolutely.
No, but he has gotten faster though. Can we agree?
Yeah.
On that?
I can agree to that too. Yes,
I'd like to see what his 40 is now. 4.56.
Maybe
it could be better than that.
Yeah. Chubbs, you had a quick question here. I'll get to it. I'm going to be the lame guy. This is what happens when you said no meatball here, just science, computer science, whatever. I don't drink beer. I know I'm the lamest of the lame. I have my party bottles up here and things like that. I drink rum and vodka and things like that, but I often don't drink when I'm watching the game. I'm a nerd. I literally like to consume the football when I'm watching. Are they in too high? Are they in single? Are they running buzz weak or robber? I like to consume the game, and so I'm a little bit of a nerd in that way. Okay.
Now, so, I have seltzers in here.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. But I'm not giving these.
Seltzers help to keep you slimmer when you're older, Aldo.
Ah,
it's better than beer for you.
I drink 2 carbs. When I drink beer, I drink Corona Premier, which has 2.2 carbs. So it's really good stuff.
This has 1 carb. It's actually 2 grams of carbs, 1%, and there's no sugar. There's 1 gram of sugar. I'm just saying. My gut is not as much since I started using those over beer anyway.
Okay, so to get just kind of the preamble, I did state it earlier, but I want to make sure everybody's clear because I'm that nerd that I want to make sure everybody knows the truth. There was a lot of shit being spewed when Luke Getsy was hired that he had called plays at Mississippi State. I want to put that to bed. That never happened. Joe Moorhead went on the Score at the time and said he called plays. Luke Getsy never did. There's numerous reports from various Acme Packing Company writers, Green Bay writers, that said Luke Getsy had never called plays. Literally the only time I ever have any proof that he was calling the plays was week 4 of the preseason in 2019 when Matt LaFleur in his first year as a head coach, decided that he would bestow the play calling duties on Luke Getsy, the quarterback's coach at the time. And then defensive, they had some guy on the defense calling the plays as well. This was something that Sean McVay did with Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur got to call plays when he was under McVay, and this is something that he wanted to carry forward. And so this is the only time I've ever seen Luke Getsy actually calling plays. It is preseason. It is vanilla. It doesn't mean you're going to see everything in the book. It also is absolutely Green Bay focused and the talent that they have and all of that stuff. But it's still something we can look forward to and something that you can see and see how much of that is adapted, because as much as it is still got Matt LaFleur's fingerprints on it, I certainly think that he gave Luke Getsy enough autonomy to work within the pre-made selection of what's in the playbook. And I think a lot of that naturally would be carried over from Green Bay to Chicago.
Can I ask a question really quick before you?
Yes.
You're about to show Green Bay videos?
I am. Yeah, you may want to tune out.
I thought you were doing the Rams. God damn it! I'm out of here.
It is,
Mr. Shorty.
yeah, it is Green Bay versus Kansas City. Which, funny enough, the Bears are playing Kansas City.
No, I mean I've done it myself. I had to look at their offense too. I get it.
Yeah.
Just
that's hilarious.
Just painful. Okay. Can I go grab another seltzer?
Yeah, go grab another seltzer. Go take a shit. Do whatever you got to do.
Let me just miss this part.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
Jordan, maybe we can address this question from Jay Sanders: is why then was Getsy such a hot commodity if he's never called plays?
Yeah, and the sad reality, and I'm obviously taking a little bit of a shot at the NFL, but the NFL is a Mr. Me Too league, which right now the zeitgeist is if you even sniff Sean McVay's butt or Kyle Shanahan's, you probably can get a job. Mm-hmm. Mike McDaniel's that way, Nate Hackett, Luke Getsy. They're a successful offense under Matt LaFleur. Mike LaFleur is in New York, for example. Just this tree is literally infiltrating the entire league, which is why I thought last week when we were talking about Pete Carroll having a defensive tree of coaches was so unique and special. The simple answer to that, Jay Sanders, is that when you're successful and you have players like Devontae Adams attributing his breakout years and success to you, and then you have Aaron talking so nicely about what you've been able to do, it gets you looks. And the reality, too, is that the way it worked is Nate Hackett was getting a lot of interest from the Jaguars to Denver, and you only can have one Nate Hackett go somewhere. And it just so happened to be that the team that also interviewed Luke Getsy had one head coach interview. It was in Denver. They were playing the game of if we lose Nate Hackett, we still want our Green Bay guy. Now, Nate Hackett went to Denver, but the whole idea is that if he goes somewhere else, we still want some of that Green Bay soup, what's going on there. And so it's just the idea that, look, if number 2 goes, number 3 surely can't be that far behind. And, I mean, the final thing here, Jay Sanders, you bring up such a good point, which is that this is exactly why he was only interviewed for one head coaching spot. This is exactly why he didn't get a head coaching spot. You have NFL teams clearly saying, we need to see you call plays full time before we're just going to hand you the keys over to our franchise. And I think that's really the point.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, as pretty much what you were saying, it's there's a lot of networking that goes on.
Yep.
And when Eberflus talked about why he brought Getsy in, he said that they've been talking for years. And during the course of those talks, he was really impressed with Getsy. And it's easy to see why. I mean, every press conference Getsy has had since he's been here with Chicago, I've been impressed out of my mind with his thinking, with his philosophy, how he handles the media. He's a very impressive guy. And I bet you Matt Eberflus wasn't the only person who felt that way. Other head coaches or other guys who thought they had opportunities to become head coaches in the NFL, and every potential NFL head coach has to have a list of players, or of assistant coaches, coordinators that they would bring onto the team. That's part of the initial interview. Well, who could you bring in as your offensive and defensive coordinator? And I'm sure Eberflus said, well, one guy that I've been talking to for years is Luke Getsy, and this is why I like him and so forth. I bet you there was probably a half a dozen other candidates out there who may have had Luke Getsy on that list because of the networking that goes on.
Absolutely. I mean, to your point, I talked about this earlier, that when the 49ers played the Colts last year, they put the Colts D in a blender that first drive. It was not pretty. Mm-hmm. And look, I mean, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I think that, Matt Eberflus looked and said, look, my defense, it had a weakness. Its kryptonite was this offense that is perforating throughout the league. Let me get one of those in my building, so at least we have the power of it. I know what it can do, and I can maybe pick up and learn what the weaknesses are, so that when we have to face the 49ers, the Packers, the Rams, any of these teams that are running it, we know how to do it, because it's the good old boys league, as somebody said. It's in every freaking team right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's interesting.
Are we done talking about the Packers?
No, we haven't even started. We were waiting
for you.
Okay.
So Sanders goes on to say, so the Bears hiring Nagy would have been the equivalent to Denver hiring Getsy? I don't think that's what we're saying.
No, and what's so interesting about, look, I know everybody hates Nagy, and it's tough. I'm not telling you that he was a good play caller. I'm not telling you that he was a good even play designer, but I think that he was a decent man. I mean, definitely a leader, kept the team attached. And I'm not telling you he should have been a head coach, but the thing, and this is where I think you've seen it, too many people got burned picking off of the Andy Reid tree, that they said, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore. It's why Eric Bieniemy hasn't been able to get a job.
Thank you. Can I just side note?
Yeah.
That's exactly why I was saying, why would everyone's complaining why Eric Bieniemy isn't getting a head coaching position, and they're blaming it on race, and it has nothing to do with race. Anyone who is in that position under Andy Reid is not calling the plays. They're not really the actual offensive coordinator that like a Luke Getsy is in this system, right? They're just piggybacking off of Reid. So as far as I'm concerned, don't hire anyone that's Andy Reid's offensive coordinator. That's where I get my Matt Nagy PTSD from.
And we're going to see
PTND.
Yeah, we're going to see. I mean, Mike Kafka was the quarterback coach for Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs last year. He got a job with Brian Daboll in New York with the Giants. They're trying it again, but this is the reality, is that, and I mean, Mo Beerman's putting it excellently. Bieniemy also has other issues as well, character issues, things of that sort that have been rumored. So it's obviously deeper than that, but the reality is I don't like getting burned. And this is the same way. I mean, and look no further, and I'll give you some good examples. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl from the Andy Reid tree. It doesn't get better than him. And even he's talked about it personally, but you can look throughout the league for examples, and he's literally talked about this. Doug Peterson himself, as I see Mo Beerman saying, Doug Peterson was the exception. Even he admits that year he was able to kind of jump onto the league with the RPO scheme and system that was not taking over yet, and got kind of an early jump on teams. And I mean, it was talked about actually tonight, funny enough, that they had talked to him in an interview before the game. And he said, they were asking how many RPOs and all that stuff that you had in Philly are you going to bring to Trevor Lawrence? And he said, it was a lot different back then when nobody else was running it. It's all over the league now. Right. And so even he had his fun year, the Nagy 2018 year, and then look where it ended up. It totally washed out when Frank Reich left and John DeFilippo, and then he was fired out of Philadelphia and had to take a year off. Like it hasn't been really smooth with the acolytes of Andy Reid. It just hasn't.
And not only that, but Nagy, who was the tight end that they signed Nagy's first year from?
Trey Burton.
Thank you, Trey Burton. You know, how do you remember all that shit? I mean, Trey Burton. That's an easy one, but your retention of names is incredible, Jordan. And numbers, by the way.
I don't smoke weed. I don't drink. That's why.
There you go.
Probably do I, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Tip to all the kids out there. So, he was like Trey Burton was one of his little pieces in his first year, right? And then that failed in his second year.
Yeah, he was the U tight end. And you know what's funny is everybody wants to shit on Trey Burton too. Trey Burton was a fundamental piece of the Eagles' success that year, and he also had a great first year as the U tight end in the Nagy offense.
But if I remember correctly, like, do you remember this too, Aldo, where he kind of came out of favor with me, where there was a play, like a trick play that they wanted him to run, but he like had fear of doing it for some reason, and
it was the play that he scored a touchdown in.
Right,
he threw for the touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So they wanted him to run that play again, and he went to the coaching staff and said, "I don't think I can do it." It's as if he had some kind of panic attack or something.
Right. And I'm not pointing to the character of him on that. I'm just saying, like, if you didn't have the ability to do that again because for whatever reason, then then your psyche to be able to play the game correctly, you can't rely on someone like that. And that's where he lost favor with everyone in Chicagoland.
I suspect that whatever was going on with him,
I respect it too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was saying I suspect that whatever was going on with him probably kept him from being, a tier 1 or high tier 2 tight end, because there were certainly some issues that were going on, whether it's his personal life, mental health problems,
right.
Who knows? It was mysterious. Whatever it was, it really kept him from being a great football player in the NFL, in my opinion, because I thought that when he did look 100% and was totally there, the guy made plays.
Right, and that's why I say I thought you said, but I do respect I respect that. Like, it's not for everybody. You can't. I'm not poo-pooing on him. I'm just saying, like, they thought they were going to get a lot more out of him, and they got that out of him in the first year, but then for whatever reason he couldn't live up to that, moving forward, and that kind of hurt the Nagy era to what you were saying. Long-winded side note. Sorry, Jordan.
No, you're okay. It's I mean, that's its own interesting situation. We could definitely go down that road a different day, but
no, I just did it. We're done.
Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into it. So that, as Cliff was saying, everybody's drinking now, so we'll see how much people retain, but we'll try it. So as we kind of go into it here, I'm
drinking seltzers. Come on, that's
well, and I understand that. I'm sure it's going to go Inception here for a second. Yep, and I know it would. Okay, so let's pull it up here. And I guess let me jump into Luke Getsy, drive 1.
Luke Getsy will call the plays, the quarterback coach on the offensive side for the entire game. On the defense,
this is a quick pause since I can't see anything while I do this. You guys can see and hear this, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Defensive side, it's going to be a mix up here. Each assistant coach on the defensive side is going to have a crack at a quarter to show what he can do calling the plays. Matt LaFleur loves this idea. It gives him a chance to step back, really manage the game. And
these plays won't be coming in straight from Matt LaFleur, but he's going to have some influence on what's being called and who's going to be getting the ball so that they can highlight some players.
So as we kind of stop here, and I guess let me exit out. Is there a way? I want my son of a gun. I want my pen access here, but apologies. Let me jump into it again and have
Luke Getsy will call
play from there. I'll zoom forward. Luke Getsy. I actually just did want to kind of point out here. Just as we kind of play it, there, you can just see how excited he is to be calling plays, and I actually just thought you have Tim Boyle, the coach or the backup quarterback playing that game. It's coming up and dapping him up. Just a sign of the players enjoying and appreciating Luke Getsy as a coach.
Oh,
The
then who's
fact that he got the chance to call plays.
going to be getting the ball so that they can highlight?
So as we kind of move here, and I'll try this. I'll try to make it as big so that you're not just seeing my whole desktop. But I also want to maintain the ability to have my pen here. So give me just a second. I know this is the boring part of it all. Okay. Why do you go away, pen? I don't appreciate that. Boy, oh boy. Okay. Hang tight. Apologies.
While he's doing that, I wanted to ask you, Aldo, have you been to Platteville?
Never been to Platteville, just Bourbonnais.
Getsy will.
I was curious if you had been, what your thoughts were between Bourbonnais and Hallis Hall now, compared to the other two.
Yeah, I said at the beginning of the show that the experience at Hallis Hall is not quite what it was compared to Bourbonnais. Bourbonnais was much bigger. You get 20,000 people on a set.
That's why I thought if you had been to Platteville, I wonder what your
never been to Platteville.
To those.
And I go back to the days of when the Bears were actually practicing at Rensselaer, Indiana, back in the late 60s and early 70s, and there were all stories that it was almost like the baseball park in Iowa, the Field of Dreams. The football practice fields were all surrounded by cornfields, and the coaching staff of the Bears would not let players drink water in between practices or during practices. Those were the Neanderthal days of sports medicine.
You let us know when you're ready, Jordan.
No, I'm good. I think we can roll this, and you guys can see this. So what you're looking at here is I separated by drives. I was trying to get through the whole game, and apologies, work didn't allow that, but got through most of the first half. And I'm going to, Aldo, in chat, just monitor if for some reason the video goes down, hang tight, we'll stop it, and the stream will come back on. But I'm going to try my best to draw over it so that hopefully interrupts the YouTube algorithm from stopping us. But what you're looking at here in play one from Luke Getsy, again, this is opening play. This is his start to his play calling career at the NFL. You were talking about the importance of that fullback. Here you see that I formation, just standard I, looking at a 22 personnel set, 22 being, as we draw here, you have receiver 1, receiver 2. Yes, and my computer's got I'll try to stabilize it, but then you have your fullback here, and then your halfback. That is and then of course your tight end is over here. That is where you get to your 22 personnel. So as we roll the clip here, got to get off that, and I love technology. Okay. So,
5. This was the 15. Tonight is the 25.
So real quick, wanted to show that because you're actually seeing the fullback motioning out. And so we started with the fullback here. We actually motion him into a strong I. And so part of the reason I want to call play point to that is because you're going to actually see what this is constantly, and this is pre-snap motion. The idea behind pre-snap motion is that we're looking to get the quarterback a read on the defense, seeing how the defense reacts to a player in motion. Also getting a player in motion at the point of the snap so that you've kind of got a head start. You've got the defense flowing in the direction that you want or the misdirection that you're trying to create to then get a play off of it. So as we kind of move it forward here, I guess let me clear that. As we get moving forward here, so we motion him out, you are going to see.
It's Carson running outside. That's the defense. Push down the sideline and puts it out of bounds. He turns the corner, gets near the Green Bay 43. Let's see, the 40-yard line.
So as I want to show that, you're getting the nice all-22 look here. Their defense is actually playing single high, which is pretty interesting because this is kind of the benefit of this zone scheme is we talk about this single high safety means that you actually have an extra man down here in the box. And so when you're actually looking at this, you've got a bubble right here. You've got a bubble right here. The defense should be able to fill that and basically fill it. We've got an edge contain here. It should be all blocked up. Now, the beautiful part about zone is that you can essentially just leave that backside alone. Now, what you're going to see here, and this is the beautiful part about it, and I guess I'll get back to drawing. We're going to have 73 climb up to the backer. 57 is going to wall him off. This is one of those cutback lanes. Your center is going to come up here to the backer. 71 is going to wall him off. There's another cutback lane. And then we're going to have a duo here where 49 is going to end up working his way here. And then you have a lane here and a lane here as well as balancing it out. That is the entire idea of the zone scheme. This backside player is chasing, never going to get there in time. That's the idea, as long as your running back isn't dancing around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then moving along, what I guess I'll fill you in as this is what I was saying. I expect to hopefully get some questions about Football 101 because this is where I get into my little education about it. For a zone scheme, traditionally we have two types of zone. Inside zone is when you have your fullback running with you strong side. That is inside zone with the lineman zone blocking. The other type of zone that you'll often see is called split zone. Split zone is where your fullback, or if you were to send the tight end on a sift block here, that is known as split zone. The reason for that is you are sending a part of your blocking, the strength of the blocking formation, backside to wall it off. Now, what you're going to see here, and this is part of that misdirection that Getsy is trying to create here on play one, is you originally had the fullback lining up here where pre-snap motioning, you're starting to see the defense line with them. They are actually going to send the fullback here to wall him off to allow absolutely everybody to get upfield. And then it ends up being a huge hole for Carson to hit it up here for a huge gain. Quite a way to get off to the start of the game. Just as a quick heads up, you're seeing everything I'm going through?
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. So as we go here, let's get me back to my pointer.
Gain of 15.
You're seeing 45 move back on that split zone, walling off the backside. You've got a nice huge hole between 71 and 72 there.
Oh, that's
Big enough for an SUV to drive through it, as the announcers are talking about. Now, I actually would have encouraged Trey Carson, the running back, to cut it up that first gap. But this is the idea of zone, is that he can bounce it out if he wants. And you see, we're talking about none of the offensive linemen are planting any of their guys in the ground here. But they've created enough lanes and gotten the way long enough for there to be a lane for the running back to cut it up on. And we're going to finish out this play here.
SUV through, the first thing I look for are yellow flags. No yellow flags.
And no, maybe it's not a 65-yard run and it's not pretty, but that is exactly what Montgomery, Herbert, and Ebner can hit time and time and time again.
So that's the D gap, right? He just hit.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Can I wind us back just a hair?
Because that was the final. That was the final line of defense, right? Because the A gap is right of center, the B gap is left of guard, the C gap is left of tackle.
For everybody
that's left of tight end.
For everybody that's kind of wondering here, I mean, we're talking a little bit of a defense here, but let me hit my pointer. A, B, B, C, D, C, D, and then of course it was. If you're running 12 personnel or you've got a jumbo set where you've got a tight end here, we just extend the letters out. But yeah, I mean, theoretically here, by the time he's moving out, he should have been. I would have hit it up the C. Yeah. But I'm not a running back. I'm a fat guy, so as you move along, he can kind of bounce it out here to the D gap and run out. But this is, to me, kind of the sweet part of. I told you I'm not a huge zone fan, but I just think it's beautiful where you get all the linemen moving here, and then you send this fullback to create this misdirection where, oh man, they're motioning strong. They're probably just going to run it up here, power. No, we're going to send him back on a sift block and then just run it down your throat.
That's why I thought it interesting to kind of take a look at the different styles of this outside zone scheme that like the Rams run or the Niners run or the Packers run, and see I kind of dove into it by watching film on it, and then it just got to be like too much because it was like I'm writing down every freaking play, and I'm like, I don't have time for this. This is just one game I'm trying to do,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I was literally writing every formation for every single play for just the first game, right? I'm like, this is gonna be so different by game 17. Like, what's the point of this? But I was doing it to try to kind of find out what how often they run these different formations as a different team, like Rams, Niners, Packers. And
Absolutely.
one thing that I did find is that the Rams like to run a lot of bunch formations in their zone scheme with a lot of single back sets. And I found that the Packers like to do that too, but they like to use a fullback instead of an H back. That's often in to make the formation symmetrical in like a different kind of a bunch set.
Yeah, well, and what you're talking about here, that's so beautiful, and boy, did I lose my pen.
Because it made me wonder, like, what are the Bears going to run compared to all these? Is it going to be a bunch of all of them, or is it going to be more Packer-centric?
And as we get on here, what you're going to end up seeing is you're going to see not just more of these fullback sifts. Oh, I need to come on now. There we go. Should draw now. No, it is not. What are we doing here? Come on, man. Okay, let me play nice, will you? It's not going to play nice. Gotta love it. Okay, well, let me see what I can do to get this up and running. But essentially, you're spot on, Shorty. They will ultimately send the fullback backside. They'll line him up as an H-back. That's where I've been talking about Kari Blasingame. A good example, if anybody wants to watch film on it, is watch the Bills and how they use their fullback, Reggie Gilliam. They'll line him up as an H-back to essentially play like he's a tight end, but they'll use him on SIF blocks. It's how Kyle Juszczyk is used with the 49ers. So just an example there. Okay, and let's see. Are we drawing? Okay, now we're drawing. Got it. All right, so moving along.
Gain of 15.
When I see a hole that's big enough to drive a SUV through, the first thing I look for are yellow flags. No yellow flags there. Great job by the block.
They've been averaging 2.
Okay, so this is what we're talking about. So as we get into it now, you're talking about those tight ends motioning everything, and I really want to key in on that because you're going to continue to see it. We're going to get a lot of pre-snap motion constantly. It helps the quarterback get a read on the defense, and it gets the defense moving in a particular direction to hopefully create an advantage when you snap that ball.
Because why?
Well, I mean, sure, I guess I could fill it in for you. So,
well, no, if you put a man in motion, you get an idea of whether or not you're in man or not.
Well, yeah, that's the big one. So you put a man in motion. You can, if somebody's following him, you can at least see the man. Now, this is the funny part of Shorty, and this is why defenses get tricky now. Is I talked about this a couple weeks ago with Eberflus running a lot of Liz Rip Match 3. You can basically tell a man on demand, so mod or Meg, man everywhere he goes, where you can run split zones or split coverages where essentially one half of the field is running man, the other half is running zones.
Yeah,
and defenses have tried to get smart as a way to not just lead
True.
and tell you what's going on in motion. But I mean, the idea here is just even withdrawing this. So we're going to send 87 here. They may end up shifting all this way only to then send the running back up here, and he's got a benefit or an advantage. That is essentially the idea. But as we move forward here, let's get to the play. So you're motioning. We're watching 87 here. This is, it looks like it is just 11 personnel. No, excuse me. It is 12 personnel, because this is the other thing too, is that you're going to see the Packers running a lot of 2 tight ends here. So they've removed their fullback. This is a tight end here, and this is a tight end here. So it looks like they're running a jumbo formation. They end up motioning 87 back to get traditional 12 personnel. Okay, moving along. Sorry, I know this is going through all the intricacies, but
no, it's good stuff. That's why
it looks like you have some new software too. You're still learning, so that's awesome. You'll only get better at it.
Thank you.
Sternberger in motion.
Okay, so we've got base 12 personnel now.
It is a 1st and 10.
And as we said, you literally are motioning 87 to the boundary side of the play, only to then run wide zone with your running back.
And again, Trey Carson, this time wrapped up and taken down by Reggie Wright. Oh, it is second.
Now, the idea there is that it doesn't go so smooth and pretty, because I guess in some ways you would say, well, damn, why didn't you keep 87 on the play side as the strength? But you're hoping to create some balance there, to close off the backside, to get linebackers flowing. But as we show it here, and this is part of the issue, if you want to talk about part of the issues of zone offenses, if we're talking about cutback lanes and alleys for running backs to run through, an alley or a window goes both ways, which means that big ass hole that we're hoping a running back to hit is also a wide open hole for a linebacker to run through and blow up the play. And we're seeing it here. As we run that back, they are following Now, if quarterback wanted to pull this back on play action, they may get a better result because the linebackers are flowing. This is part of the issue that the Colts had, is that they were biting on every single wide zone play action that Shanahan was doing because they want to flow to the ball, but then the quarterback pulls it back and you've got linebackers out of alignment. But in this case, ball gets handed back and boom, linebackers right there on it. Okay. This is, as we're getting to the final players, you can see, so they had one first down run. Next play was second and I think it was 1st and 10. They run that play. You get 2nd and 9 here, which is, I actually like this formation, this concept here. So this is actually 11 personnel, and you've got a twins look over here. You've got your 2 receivers, your backside. Now what's interesting, and then of course you've got your running back here and your tight end here. That is your 11 personnel. Now what I find so interesting about this is that they're, again, pre-snap motion. They're motioning Trevor Davis, I believe is his name, here inside. Almost what could be like a bubble screen, a tunnel screen. They may want to bring him in and crack down on him as they're running zone. There's a lot of options here, but let's watch how it plays out. I just really enjoyed the scheme here. So you're motioning 11 in.
Down and 9. That's Trevor Davis in motion for Green Bay.
And we've actually got the receiver now lining up like an off tight end. And I mean, again, I'm just going to, I don't mean to make it sound like this, but it's my show. I'm going to show you some different looks that you could run off of this. I mean, you can have the receiver come up. You can send him backside. You may have him catch a jet touch pass here and carry it up, and you've got 2-on-2, and then he's running. I mean, there's a lot you can do here. And so just imagine, for your sake, that 11 is Velus Jones here with that 4.31 speed and his 200-pound body, what he can do. Now, what's interesting is you're seeing that motion in, like, okay, so the play's got to involve Trevor Davis, number 11. Well, as we roll the tape, so we've got a fake, or not even an RPO, but it's, running back's faking it like he's running the ball to get a screen right out to the boundary here. And it doesn't go anywhere so special, but the idea is that there's enough window dressing there to get a defense guessing up until the snap. And you've got all this motion to carry the eyes. That's the whole idea of this window dressing, to bring attention over to the play side, that where the play's not even going, and seeing if we can create an alley here where, look, I know, and this is where, I mean, not that anybody's totally critiquing the play, but if we're going to critique it just a little bit, well, damn, that did you no good. You ran a screen here, and now we talked about it at the top of your screen here. You should have had 2v2, and they should cancel it out. And I know that that's not how it looks. Now, mind you, this is preseason. These are not starters. Some of the execution's not there. But the general idea here is that as we roll this back just a hair, what you'd be hoping for is that traditionally, and you can do this one of two ways. You can have this receiver try to blow him up and get him out of the play. And then it's one-on-one here, and you're asking your receiver to just beat the man. Or
Jones.
Yep. Or go ahead and take him out. He's the most direct. And then you're forcing this man in conflict where now he's trying to come at you at an angle. You can cut inside and you've got all this field. You can cut outside. It's not the worst concept design. And with all the extra motion at the bottom of your screen here, it was definitely, I mean, look at this. They've got their eyes on what's going on with the run here. Are we worried about Trevor Davis? And it's a 2-man game outside at the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then as we wrap up here, final play of the drive.
Outside they go.
So we'll skip past that.
But it's the accuracy of the throw that's so important.
Okay, so once again, we're talking about pre-snap motion, the name of the game.
This reminds me of one of the Rams' offensive positions. Yep.
Very similar. And you've got, I mean, again, this is 11 personnel, your tight ends here. 11 personnel, for those wondering, that means that you have one running back. That's one of the 11s, and then one tight end, and then you've got your 3 receivers here. This is Rams special. They run more 11 personnel than damn near any team in the league. And they can do that because, and this is, I guess I'm going to go a little deep here for those that want to know why the Rams are so successful and how you can live out of 11 personnel and run the ball and still maintain an honest defense. Is the whole idea there is that your receivers need to be able to kick some ass in the blocking game so that you don't have to have a fullback in, so that you can run the ball in these light boxes. Now, of course, Kansas City's playing up here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's not a box you want to run into. That's what we talk about, that when you're playing middle of the field closed, you are able to insert another guy in the run here. You don't have a numbers advantage. Now, the beautiful part of having a Justin Fields or an athletic quarterback is he is the difference maker. He creates an unequal balance here. Once you bring this man up, you technically have the quarterback, and this man is responsible for it. You run option here. The only man that's responsible for him is the safety. But yes, so the whole idea is that the Rams, if you're going to be able to run personnel, you need receivers that can block. Some of that goes to the whole idea that N'Keal Harry blocks well, Byron Pringle blocks well, Equinemius St. Brown's big body, Darnell Mooney's a willing blocker, Cole Kmet's a good blocker as a tight end. You're starting to hopefully draw some parallels and comparisons and similarities about what the Bears are hopefully trying to run.
Thank you.
As we wrap this drive up, and I have 4 drives, I guess in some ways, although you're probably thinking me like, thank God you didn't go through the whole game with how long this has taken. But
no, not at all. This has been fun, man.
Okay.
Okay.
So to move forward. So now we've got, and I mean, this is very common too, but you've got essentially a 3-by-1. You've got your 3 here, your 1 backside. This is what we talk about when we say that X receiver, that one guy on the backside, a ball winner. This is where Allen Robinson made his money. This is where I think the Bears desperately need this position. A guy that at the end of the day, you've got all these options over here, sure, but at the end of the day, can we count on this guy to win his battle and win at the catch point? That's the idea.
Mm-hmm. It's like a wide trips.
Yep. So
run by Carson.
And they think that there's a false start here. Maybe it was, but it doesn't get called.
Chiefs were thinking somebody moved prematurely for Green Bay. 3rd and 2. Pocket crumbles, and he got away.
Now, the whole idea there is that, this is preseason. Their line, they have a guy that I've never even heard of before as their right tackle. But really the whole idea here is it's a sack, but I just wanted to show you the concepts.
Can I just pause you for a second? That Aldo, have you, and Jordan, have you noticed when you're go back to the pre-snap, the line? Okay, right there, where his hand where his hands were out. Right there. Every quarterback, have you noticed in this offense, looks like Aaron Rodgers right there.
That's right.
From right here, you can't tell that that's not Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
And that's the kind of thing I've been noticing from Fields. Did you notice that, Aldo? Like in practice?
Now that you mention it a little bit, yeah.
He kind of has that. They're training him in the same stance to do the same exact thing. He's going to end up I'm excited. Sorry. Go on.
No, you're okay. And I guess, although I didn't have this explicit conversation with you, but I hope what you're getting here is you asked me to break down the Kurt Warner film, and this is my ode to you in that respect, because I didn't really know how to break down the film that Kurt already broke down, so I figured let me get something a little more personal to us with Getsy. And
no, that's not a problem. And just for some context for the audience, I saw Kurt Warner break down tape of that playoff loss that the Packers had, and as the game went on, Warner was more and more perplexed with what the Packers were running, and running receivers right at defenders. And I don't know if that's a Getsy thing, a Matt LaFleur thing, but it was a little bit concerning when I saw Warner being so critical of the offensive schemes that the Packers were running in that playoff game.
It could be LaFleur.
It has to be, right? Buck stops with him. I don't think it's Luke Getsy. Yeah. One of the things that I'm most intrigued about once that first game happens against the San Francisco 49ers is to see what this Luke Getsy / Bears offense is going to be. He's not going to emulate everything the Packers are doing, not nearly. I think he's going to add his own creativity to it. And every time I hear him talk, he makes me more and more excited about what the Bears are going to be bringing from a creative standpoint.
Right, and you can see every time he talks, it's like, damn it, we're going to lose this guy in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really get that impression. You absolutely.
It's like he's so intelligent. You could tell. You could see in the coaching just that I've seen in the film that's out there of him teaching, and what Fields has been learning from it. If Fields has a breakout year, I know I've said a lot that I think he's going to, but he might not. If he doesn't, then he'll still be around. But if he does, if he breaks out this year, and then he's great the next year, bye Getsy.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. the help wanted sign for brilliant offensive head coaches is
all the vacancies, the blinking vacancy signs over the
exactly
over the
help
stadiums of the teams that fired their head coaches next year. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that's and I agree with you. You know, that whole topic about Justin Fields, man. We could talk about that in a future show. Is I mentioned this on the Irish Bears show. You know, what happens if Fields has a so-so performance? I know Jordan has talked about this, and this team will then be looking for a quarterback in the draft. You might have to, right? So this is a big. When you asked that question earlier in the show about who's kind of the bubble player, who's that player? I mean, you really could start with Justin Fields before Eddie Jackson.
mm-hmm.
And he's got disadvantages going for him. Second year in the league, second head coach, second offensive coordinator. Who's in that wide receiver room that he recognizes? One guy, Darnell Mooney.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like, hey, what's your name again?
as much as my optimism is so over the top, I mean, he could easily be exactly the opposite, you know, and I'll eat my words if that's the case. But if that happens, then yeah, we're screwed, man. We're in for it all over again. You know, we're going to be starting over with a new quarterback in this draft, and then, I mean, or not. You know, depends on how hard. When's the last time we had the? Do you guys know the last time we had the first pick in the draft?
No.
1946.
Oh, really? Wow.
And then before that, it was like, who cares? It was so long ago. Before that, it doesn't even count.
Mm-hmm. Jeez.
So
that long ago.
We're not going to have the first pick in the draft.
Hopefully.
Sorry, Jordan. Jordan's already like, I'm just practicing drawing while you guys are just talking.
Oh no! The reason I want to make sure I'm respecting people's time and we're getting through this somewhat in a decent amount of time. I wanted to show the route concept because I mean, one thing is, well, why are you showing me a sack? What does that matter? Well, just the route concept so you can kind of understand it here. And let me point out the real problem and why that there's nobody open. And I think Chubbs is saying like the Chiefs covered this up well. This is actually what broke Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs and what the Bengals did in the second half. But look at the pressure, and this is a good job. I mean, look, they get paid too. The Chiefs do a good job getting home with 1, 2, and 3. That means that 8 men are in coverage versus 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you've literally got 3 more people in comparison to the guys that are out on the route. And so this is really the issue is this is the route concept, but you've got, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you've got 3 people in the secondary. One is over here covering the receiver. That means that you have 2 deep safeties. This post is in traffic. You're not going to be able to hit that. This is your check down, but the problem is you've literally got somebody out there on your check down, so not even your check down's open.
Right.
You've got your out. I mean, sure, I guess you can try to drive this here, but the problem is this corner can undercut it. So you can't go there. And then look, I mean, he's already looking to drive on this ball if you throw it here. And then you have your boundary fade, but this safety can drive on it if you were to try to drive it home. That's the beauty of quarters. That's the problem when you're sending 3 and you can drop 8. Not a great business model to try to throw into that.
Mm-hmm.
Run, Justin, run.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and to your point, although you do such a good job talking about this is Tim Boyle. He's certainly not Justin Fields, but
No.
you can see that he tries to get away now. Justin Fields gets out of here. You're talking about Justin Fields. Now, no, I'm not saying it's going to be a touchdown, but it's Justin Fields here with 24, which may be more Mo Claiborne. One-on-one, you're hoping that Justin Fields puts the spin cycle on him and gets out to the back.
At least move the chains, baby.
Yep. So that concludes drive 1. There's a flag. Doesn't matter. They end up punting. But that is drive 1. I guess we can take a brief intermission. Any questions from you gentlemen or the chat or anything that anybody wants to discuss before I move on?
Not for me. Good stuff.
That was awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, because I really have been interested to know like what the Bears are going to run compared to the other versions of this offense. I mean, I know they're all very similar in some sets, but they're all very different in a lot of ways too. So,
well, and if
are they going to run a lot of 5 wide? You know,
well,
the Rams do a lot of that too.
Yeah, and you're gonna. I mean, I'll get through it. And I apologize, and in some ways, I guess I'm not apologizing. We always go so long on this show, but if this is interesting, if people want to see more, I can try to get through the second half of the game. I think I got to 3 minutes left in the first half with going through this, but the point is, you'll be able to see a lot of good context, good concepts about what's being ran, things of that sort. But if this is interesting, you want to know more. Yes, I wish I had a whole plethora of Getsy play calls, but the reality is it's one game. So I wanted to make sure I went through every single play and went through the concepts. But the good news is there's still another half if you're looking for it. We can get into that maybe in a future show. Because I mean,
it's going on 1:30 for me, so I'll have to bail fairly soon.
Fairly
soon.
Like I said, I'll try to run through it. But I mean, the good news is too, we'll also have Bears football here soon. So with NFL Plus, I'll be able to get through that. We'll go through the concepts that we're seeing live in Bears games. Okay, so moving along here.
Can I just say to the chat room here that I have 2 dogs that are they were talking about their dogs, and I have 2 dogs that are now going on 11, and they're brother and sister. And to you guys out there with your pets and stuff, I feel your pain. I'm talking to J2K and Chubb82. I mean, pets are the best. They're like the most. They really help everyone with their souls. And my dogs are getting old, and I'm gonna just curl up into a ball in my bathtub for like 3 years and cry when they're gone. So, I was reading your chats and I can't reply to you. So, just wanted to say I appreciate you guys' love for animals as well. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So then moving along here, I mean, somebody earlier in the chat had said, I really want to see some strong and weak eye. And I think we've been showing that again here. What you're looking at is 22 personnel. You've got your fullback in so when we're talking 22, that first 2 is actually your 2 running backs. And then the second 2 is your receivers out there. So you've got your 22 personnel here. You've got your fullback out. This is strong eye because you have your tight end here. Now, what we actually end up seeing as we play it out, let's go there, is tight end motions.
Luke Getsy is the quarterback.
Again, here's that pre-snap motion.
Coach, the fullback is in. First down and 10.
Now we've got a more balanced formation because you've got your fullback out here in what used to be the strength, but you've motioned your tight end over here, so you're not at a deficit back here. You've actually got an even and well-balanced play, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and then you have your back there. So that's what we're looking at. Okay, moving along.
Green Bay's 25. Dexter Williams is in the backfield, and he's sacked again. Brought down Boyle.
So you will see this a little bit because, again, this is preseason. These are the backups, not pretty. But as we go through here, I wanted to show you. I guess we'll try to glean what we can from it. So the interesting part here is that it's not a lot of fluff. It's just a play action pass. They're not using any crazy sift blocks or anything like that. And it's essentially I believe a 2 or 3 man concept. But before he gets sacked, we'll play it. And then let me take the sound down on this just a little bit for now. I guess you don't need to hear the announcers on it, but. So we go through there. Yeah, you can see, I mean, you have a fade up top and then what is probably, and I apologize, NFL Plus doesn't have the all-22 at the moment, but you have essentially an outside fade route here. And then what is probably some type of cross or dig on the backside. But as you can see, you have nobody else out in the concept. And so this is just an example. And I hope we don't see this with the Bears. But you got to have an offensive line that can block if you're going to be putting 2 men out in the route. And this is actually somewhat similar where people were begging and pleading that Nagy run max protect with the Bears last year for Justin Fields. And the argument, listen, I get it. I don't think he made a good decision spreading it all out wide and having 5-man protection. But the idea here is this is essentially max protect. You've got 2 options. Well, those guys need to be able to win and get separation. And if they don't, then all that's for naught when the pressure still breaks down and gets to your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So that is that play.
I'm trying to figure out who that right tackle is.
His name is DeBeer.
He is awful.
Yeah. So this is the point, though. This is what I'm saying. Like, I've never even heard of DeBeer. Like, it was, and that's what I'm saying. You can only get so much because it's preseason, but we're not even so much looking at the result to get just the concepts.
I'm sorry, Jordan, but how?
How what?
How do you retain all that information?
Oh,
De Beer, really?
Well, that's his. I wish I could take credit for this. I mean, you watched this enough before the show, and you get some of the names down.
Your retention of names and numbers is just impressive to me. It really is. I'm not kidding.
And you can see the little run back of the play here. Just a simple play action. Fakes it there. Fullback staying home, and then the fullback's
Who's 45 right there?
Dan Vitale. That's the fullback.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Who's 72?
I don't know his first name, but De Beer.
Shame on you.
And then
he's giving Beer a bad name. De Beer.
Yeah. And then for Bears fans, this is Jeremiah Tachu.
Yeah, thank you. I knew you'd know that.
Hardly knew you, Jeremiah.
Wait, who's the referee?
That I don't know.
What type of grass?
Okay. And then just another example of it. And I brought this in so that you could see, and this is what we were talking about. And I guess this is the good point to show Bears fans in the audience watching. This is, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like this is everything that Shanahan and the scheme will run, but this is like almost, now you'll get a lot prettier play action in here where, you'll have the quarterback roll out here. You may have like the fullback sifting and then faking it here. And then with Justin Fields, he boots out here. But the whole idea, and this is just so common in the Shanahan system, is you'll have what's an alert route. Like, hey, if this is open, go ahead and take the shot play. But the whole idea is and this is what we were talking about last week, when you run middle of the field close, this is what killed Seattle and why they don't do it anymore, is because this safety has to respond to any vertical threats. Because at the end of the day, you're the last line of defense. I cannot allow you to be beat out here corner, so I have to come help you. And then what that does is they run a crosser over here, create conflict. Are you going to crash down here? Then I'll take the whole shot. Are you going to go up here? Well, then I'll take the crosser. And this is what you're going to see happen as I clear it out here. Trevor Davis, number 11, is going to be your guy that runs this crosser. Now, it doesn't happen because the quarterback gets sacked, but, I mean, let's watch this here. I mean, you can literally see it where the safety bites back enough to where, hey, Trevor, sit in this region and you'll be able to catch it. And so as we go here.
Or Cole.
Yep, and I mean, it's hard.
It's Cole.
Yeah, well, and this is, and I mean, for the record, I guess you have your check down here, and it's kind of a sale concept. It's not, sale's a little different, but the whole idea is, and this is what I hope to see with Justin Fields, you're going to get these half field reads where, look, Justin, all your eyes need to be over on this side of this half of the field. You've got your check down here, you've got your mid-level alert crosser here, and then you've got your high-level alert up there. And that is the idea of, you've got three options. You're going to play it where safety goes up, you take mid, safety goes down, you take the shot. And if he comes down, then you really need to hit this second level. But if he flows back, then you're not hitting your second, you're not hitting your third, hit the check down.
Right.
Okay. I guess just for feedback, am I tracking okay? Everything makes sense. I want to make sure I'm not moving too fast.
Don't sound so exhausted after it. You did a good job.
Sorry, I just
every okay. That was a lot of work. No, you did a good job. That's. I mean, we're looking at preseason and a third string quarterback, but the concepts are there. When you visualize them with this being run by Justin Fields and Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney and, Velus Jones and I guess I'll say Byron Pringle and Equanimeous St. Brown, you can see this working for the Bears.
Absolutely.
Well, this is one of my favorites because this is the Justin Fields special. So this is essentially a smash concept. So he's going to run like a little 5 to 7 yard curl. And the whole idea is, I mean, this is open. So if he were to jump back into quarters, then you lay it on the curl because he's vacating out here. But the whole idea, and you're hoping for this result, is that we're going to run this little smash concept, 5 to 7 yard curl there. We're going to put Darnell Mooney or whoever you want. He's going to run a slot fade out here. And the idea is that even if he tracks with him, you're hoping that, one, if he bites down, then you've got a totally open ball here. But even if he carries with him, you're hoping that this outside leverage receiver gets over the top of him and you can drop one in on a rainbow ball, if that makes sense. So as we show it here, let's move through it. I'll let you kind of just see it first.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites because it doesn't go anywhere. But the idea is we all know what Justin Fields is capable of in the deep game. So you get this. I mean, look, Bayless would run this perfectly because he's got the speed as long as he can track the ball over his shoulder. Darnell Mooney can absolutely do this. We saw it in the Detroit Lions game where he tracks the ball over his shoulder. Justin Fields gets enough time to cork one back, drops it in with great accuracy, and it's not a third-string receiver. And you come down with that. And the whole idea is that your safety, Jordan Lucas, is not able to get over here quick enough. So this is – when we talk about cover 2, it's not even cover 2, but the idea is when you're running cover 2, and I guess I'll wind it back so you guys can see what that looks like. Cover 2 is the general idea that you have your safety playing curl to flat down, or excuse me, your corner playing curl to flat down here, corner playing curl to flat down here. Your safety, now the slot is usually just carrying the vertical, but your safeties are playing deep halves. And what that creates is this window where, and I'm showing this because you don't have the whole field behind you, but just to kind of extend this, get this separation here the same way. You have all this room to hit it. This is called the honey hole or the money hole, anything you hear like that, where between your cover 2 shell or your deep half and your underneath, there's a spot there for you to make the defense pay. And this isn't even necessarily the same concept, but you get that by running the smash concept. And that's where you get Justin Fields here corking one back, throwing it to his slot receiver, delivering it into that honey hole, and you get a completion.
Nice.
And you're looking at that concept there, and you could easily take out the Sam and replace it with another safety.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
alignment.
And Trevor Davis has speed here. I don't want to make – he's not a slow receiver, but,
No,
I mean, you can see it, though, where this is how you get that leverage on your safety because they have to play over the top of you, so they're respecting you. But then as soon as you break it out, he's got to turn his hips while you're already moving forward. You get the leverage on him, and then boom, you're off to the races. Okay, and then final play of this drive. As we look at here, another 11 personnel, no pre-snap motion here. But as we run this, some of this I'm going off of memory of what it is. This looks like a 4 verts concept. I mean, and they'll obviously break, but at the moment you have deep, 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 deep. Nobody's in the middle here, so it's a deeper concept. So as we run it through, and that's why. Sorry, just got to try to remember what play it is. You're running all these guys out as we were talking about because let's vacate them all downfield so that we can hit the little halfback screen down here. See if halfback can make this man miss and make a play. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen because, again, one, you're in a bad situation where it's 3rd and deep, and it's backups. Your linemen aren't the best out there. So that is drive 2. Drive 3. Long. Again, we have 4 drives, so they're not so long. As we move back here, we're getting some more I formation fullback. And then so let's kind of roll this. Safety's coming down, 24 into the box. You can run into a heavier box. It's fine to run into middle of the field close, but it's just not ideal. The whole idea is with these defenses nowadays, running odd fronts and running 2 high shells where this safety's back. Take that guy out of the box. We've got a numbers advantage. Run it. Be successful so that they have to bring the safety up. And then you can start hitting those crossers, hitting those posts, things like that. Okay. Moving along. Again, you're seeing that I formation, that pre-snap motion. Now, this is another fun one because you're just starting to see that Luke Getsy getting loose and playing with it. So we've got a fake handoff here, looking like you're running inside zone by motioning the fullback out. And then you'll actually see fullback cuts it in here, fake run play. And he's giving it to Trevor Davis, 11 on the end around with the fullback leading out. Now, the fullback, again, this is not the best players, but the fullback doesn't get the block in. and actually stops the play from working. But the idea here is that it's an exciting concept. It's something that you could see a Velus Jones running, where you've got your Kari Blossom game. You've got David Montgomery. He's been gashing people all day. Defense has to respect this. They're biting on this, only to flip it to Velus around the backside with a guy like N'Keal Harry here blocking it. And he's off to the races. That is essentially the concept.
That speed is so. How was that speed, Aldo?
I'm sorry, say again.
How was Velus Jones' speed in camp?
I would say we're talking Devin Hester type speed.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be beautiful.
Okay. I saw it with my own eyes too. It looked. I wasn't there, but I saw it on different people's tweets and stuff. And holy shit! I mean, he looked. Faster than in college to me.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, one of the things that I think that they've been working a lot with him on is expanding his route tree, getting him more familiar with stuff, and that's the exciting thing because we haven't seen anything yet from what he's laid down on college tape.
Right.
And I just want to pause it here just to show just more of that zone scheme. This goes back to the whole idea of zone where we're running our lineman out here, selling the zone, and then the fullback. 93 has got to think that he's going to get the fullback here and running backs leading up, but he actually leaves them because he knows that 93 has no chance to come out and be the lead blocker for 11 there. Okay. All right, and this is kind of Rams special. In this case, you're running 12 personnel, but you get a closed formation. You don't have the receivers out to the boundary. And as we run it here, you'll notice that they like to do this. Getsy like to run this a lot in this early half of the game where they have these two tight ends out here as opposed to your traditional base 12 where you have a tight end out here. But they kind of overload one side of the formation to get the defense either flowing or they're going to use it for pre-snap motion, things of that sort. And so as we play it out here, I guess I'm going to still try to do this educational part of it. As I rewind this back, I don't know if I ever really got to talk about this, but if you watch Tim Boyle, you're going to see his hands go up to his helmet here. And I showed this a little bit a couple weeks ago with the 49ers, but this is a very common call in the Shanahan scheme. So you have two operational words that you'll typically see the quarterbacks run, which is kill, which typically that'll either kill the play, that's literally what it's about, and we're running another option or another play off of it, or it's saying kill it, and you can flip it around to the other side. That is typically just a vocal word that you'll hear the quarterback use, as opposed to these hands up at the head. And in this case, the 49ers, you'll have every player doing it to recognize or say that they understand it. But they call that cans, and it's the whole idea of like cans on your head, earphones. So it's cans. And that typically, and the reason why it's interchangeable is you can't just have it always be cans is one thing, kill is another, otherwise teams pick up on it. But it's always one or the other. So it's to kill a play or to swap to a secondary play off of the same formation that's already built into it. That's kind of what makes this scheme so desirable and why people love it, is it all comes out of the same formations and you can run 3 or 4 things out of it. And it's always about how can we put the defense in conflict to win the battle here, to have the advantage going into the play. And so you'll see that cans a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Fields start doing that too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Or some other word that's similar, that means the same thing.
And he puts his hands behind his butt here, and I'm sure that's to signal to the running back, like, hey, moving it this way, or we're going to this play. But as he goes here, this is an example of this is like preseason definition where this does not work because I don't know what the hell Trevor Davis is doing. Watch this play as we roll it. Mm-hmm. But I like this because this is, in many ways, you're just getting the lineman here zone blocking again, but you're just getting kind of a crack toss out here. And so what should happen is Trevor Davis should come here and earhole this defender. And then you're hoping that the the O-line washes all this traffic out of here. So it's one-on-one with your running back in space against this corner. That's how it should go. But I want you to watch Trevor Davis here, who, let me circle one more time, watch the effort here, and it's just a bummer because it really kind of ruins the play. Okay, so I mean, just like, what the hell are we doing, dude? Like, fuck.
Yeah, he's confused a bit.
Put a hat on somebody. What the fuck are you doing?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just going to run over here.
Because if we stop, I mean, this is where I say it's sweet, is your tight ends. I mean, this is Cole Kmet. He's a much bigger dude. You should blow this dude up.
Mm-hmm.
And this was originally Trevor Davis's man, but fine. React on space. Come up here and block him.
Mm-hmm.
Who's getting the running back except 44? And if you have an actual speedy guy like Ebner, for example, he's not catching Ebner out to the alley. It's you're getting massive yards off of that. So again, this is what we're talking about. The concept is good. Maybe the execution's not because of the talent, but the concepts from Getsy are sound.
You know what's a tough thing about this, Shorty?
What's that?
Is that we're actually rooting for the Packers to score here.
I know, we're like, come on, Packers. Fuck you, Jordan. What are you doing to us right now?
I know.
Hey, what are you doing?
Can't you show us the Rams or something?
Yeah, well, Luke Getsy didn't call plays for that. Okay, so as we run this, more 12 personnel, so your tight ends.
He's like, there's only like an hour of this left, guys. Just hold
on. I promise it shouldn't be too much longer. We have 52 seconds in this video, and then one or two more, and I think it's a total of like 8 plays left. Okay, so you have your base 12 personnel, except it's closed in. Your receivers aren't nearly out as far on the boundary, but 1, 2, and there's your 12 personnel, 3 and 4. So a nice balanced formation. And then what they actually run here, and for those, I mean, it's a personal preference, but I love 12 personnel. There's no more. I don't have a more favorite personnel packages than 12. I think you're just at a good advantage where I like a fullback, and this is where I'm saying you can put the fullback out as your H-back or as your tight end. I'm good with that. But the whole idea is a tight end is kind of like a knight on your chessboard. They have the ability to block, but they can also be a receiving threat, be a bigger target. There's a lot of benefits to having tight ends. And I was wishing that the Bears would have done that this year with Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet, or Jesper Horsted and Cole Kmet. Have your big, bulky Y, and then your U tight end, or a little bit of a smaller guy. And if you want to put a fullback there, great. Now they both can block, and they can both be in the pass game. And then you still have the benefit of having 2 wide receivers and a single back. So this is my favorite formation, and you're seeing a decent amount of this from Getsy. Just a basic, and this is pretty interesting. I like this because this is, I don't want to say it's something you don't ever see, but traditionally, if you're running a 7-step drop, you're not doing it. You have to do it from under center, but to make it a 7-step drop, you're typically incorporating some type of play action to get those extra steps, to get the depth in, to get more time to get deep. But they're actually just having Tim Boyle drop a full 7 here, which is pretty unique, and read this out. And so what you're actually seeing here is I think it was J2K some time ago was asking about mesh. This is, maybe it was on your show, Shorty, where they're asking, will they run mesh? Mm-hmm. This is mesh, where you have the receivers taking the deep verticals. You have a center fielder back here that's not here. But you're running this kind of rub route mesh point where he's going this way, he's going this way. And then you have your running back out here on the rail route, and this is forcing the linebacker.
Confusion,
Yeah, and this is the thing. If the linebacker crashes, this guy's open. If he drops, hit the rail route low, and then, of course, that's one side. We even have openings here. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, that's where Tim Boyle's going to go.
I love mesh.
So as we run it here.
Love meth?
I love lamp. I love lamp, Aldo. Okay. No, I love the mesh concept. It's a great – with the two inside receivers, tight ends, whatever concept you're in, whatever formation you're in, going across the field, opposite directions, sideline to sideline, opposite directions. It's It opens up for a lot because it allows you that dump off at the end when everything else is broken down.
Yeah, and for those, I mean, the whole idea too is we talk about man coverage. The whole idea is that this rubbing, this mesh, this is why it's literally called mesh. This mesh point where they cross gets the man coverage and breaks it if you have guys that can get open. And then you're hoping that these vertical routes carry these guys deep, and then you can do funky things where you run a post, run a streak, things like that.
But like mesh is like the mesh concept is more like the modern version of like the fullback dump off of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Where you would have at the last line of defense, you have that fullback coming out, kind of doing like almost like a modern wheel route, but you just dump it off to the fullback, you get 10 yards out of it. And the mesh concept is interesting. It's fun because, when all else breaks down, you'll still have that mesh concept going across either direction that's open on either side of the field as your dump off, which is the same, 10 yards as it was 35 years ago.
And I just wanted to kind of end it here. I mean, the problem is that the quarterback overthrows him and it doesn't end up getting open. But I mean, you could see the separation there where it's good concept, get it there, don't underthrow him, get it in his hands. And maybe you're not going to get a total, like it's not a touchdown, but he should still have some opportunity to cut it up here and get a few extra yards. And once again, showing good sound West Coast concepts.
Mm-hmm.
One here, I formation again. You got your X out on the boundary. There's that pre-snap motion. We're moving the fullback out into the strong I. Once again, dropping him to a 5-step drop. And so we'll kind of pause here. I mean, you've got kind of a 3-vert concept where you've got him deep. This guy's probably over here crossing in. You've got the receiver working out here, but you've got an option route to hit here. You've got your fullback in the flat. There's enough there to work with, and it's the whole idea is the 5 is you've got some intermediate concepts running deep, but you've still got some stuff underneath to hit if you need it. So go forward. Now this is the Justin Fields special where touchdown to check down. I don't want the check down. You've given me a deeper route. Let me see if I can hit it. And in this case, the Trevor Davis number 11 gets PI'd the whole way through. But the idea, and I mean, that works out. It gets him to the 1-yard line. But I mean, that's the Justin Fields special. Hey, take 5, launch one deep to your guy and ask him to go win. And if it doesn't, you may get the PI and get it down there. Okay, fullback again. I formation, pre-snap motion. You're seeing that a ton. Now is this what I think it is? I love this. It doesn't work, but anybody that knows the whole John Gruden Spider 2 Y banana, this is Spider 2 Y banana, the West Coast special. So you're going to play action here. Fullback's going to hit the flat. Tight end. Now, usually you'll run the tight end over here, but it's okay. They don't. So as we move it back, let me draw this out. Fullback goes here. Tight end ends up drawing the corner here, and then you can run some other routes. But really, it's a 2-man concept. You're trying to hit the alert up top, and then if not, go ahead and hit the fullback. And this was how Mike Allstock got quite a few plays in his career. So rolling this out, you're rolling there. Whole eye concept here, and this is where they follow the fullback really well, so probably not going to hit that. But you can already see our tight end's gotten behind the DB. Hit him out here, put it out in the corner there for him. Now, Mo Claiborne, the corner on the play, does such an excellent job.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Cole. Come on, Cole.
Oh, damn it, Cole.
But, yeah, I mean, that's the idea is that at the end of the day, it's right there. Just, again, nice concept, what you hope to see when you're watching your play caller.
Yep.
Stuff that the whole point is Nagy would run a lot of curls and all that. You're seeing a lot of things that Gruden's running it, McVay's running it. These are concepts. All right, 11 personnel.
There's
here.
so many plays within the play.
Yeah. You want to give your quarterback a lot of outlets here and make sure he's not just locking into one. And the hope is that Justin Fields will be able to move through his reads and progress quickly to get to his different options throughout.
Right.
And then this is, so people say we run wide zone. Getsy's going to run wide zone. This is wide zone when you think about it purely as we go through it here. I mean, you can see it, and this is where George Barlissimo was talking about. Look, we want to, and this is how you want to make me a fan of zone. Nagy, when they would run zone, and this is kind of what you're seeing with the Packers, but they do a little better job. The old school zone is like just literally run lateral to the line and create these cutback lanes for your runner. That's level one, if you want to call it that. What I'd love to see, though, and this is what you're hoping to see, is actually drive them off the ball a little bit so that we get them 3 to 5 yards off, so that even if, it's not a huge gain, we've got some movement to get the 3 or 4. We're not getting a 0-yard gain because somebody broke through on that alley.
Right.
But as you're seeing it here, this is wide zone as it gets. You've got him coming down here, him coming here. You can see all your linemen putting a hat up and down, and then hoping to bust it free. But, of course, the running back doesn't get what he's looking for, because this is what we're talking about. When your linemen are running lateral and they don't win at the point of attack, your running back's now running into trash.
Right.
So moving along. I'll still get some few yards and good hard running by Trey Carson there, but I wanted to show this early part with this angle, because you're seeing once again that pre-snap motion. They're moving 87. Now this is you were asking for the Packers to score a touchdown. I'll let you in on a little secret. This is where they scored their touchdown, if I remember correctly. This is beautiful. This is I want to call it like F. F is your H-back, tight end, fullback type guy. Now, this isn't that. They had Josiah DeGuara in this year. They drafted Cincinnati 2 years ago. That's their F-back guy. But this is I'm forgetting the total name, but it's like an F sift block, essentially, where you're motioning him over here. And then the whole idea is that you can snap it, and he can become a lead blocker here if you want to run it. But you're going to see the way that they ultimately operate it here, and it's beautiful. It's sweet, and it's what I'd love to see. Okay. So give me a second, as I hope you guys can still hear me, but my mouse is completely froze or dead. Just a second. You able to hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
That is odd and not fun. So let me.
That is odd and not fun.
Okay, there we go.
No, I can't hear you, Jordan.
No, my mouse completely died on me. I was like, what's going on?
Oh,
Okay. So then as we go here, tight ends, motioning back. Now you've got the full look. So this is what I talk about with the whole misdirection. Let's motion him over, only to then sneak him out the back door here. And just watch. It's beautiful.
That's Jay Sternberger.
Yep. Yes, it is. Texas A&M tight end. And so you get the play action here. You get Justin Field, where this is the beautiful thing. So you motion tight end only to roll him back out here. But you've also got 4.4 speed Ferrari Fields here on the naked bootleg, so that if he doesn't like the pass here, he can run it in as well. And so what we see here, though, is that they, being a preseason game, the defense isn't aware of it. Sneak the tight end out the back door, touchdown. So that is drive 3. As we quickly move into drive. This is actually the last drive. I thought there was one more, and this is it actually ends prematurely. There's a
God, it's starting from the 4 though, Aldo. we have
well,
we have 96 yards to go.
No, I guess I'll let you play for you. I won't spoil it. It doesn't go that far.
96 more yards of Packers.
Okay.
I'm just kidding, buddy.
No, I hear you. So this is what we're talking. And this is, I don't want to knock him. Look, there's only so much you can do at the 4-yard line. You don't want to give up a safety. But this is just plain as day, old school. Hey, let's just be predictable. Let's run the ball to try and get better field position. So you just end up ultimately seeing kind of an ISO run here. Just, hey, run in behind their asses and see if we can get a couple yards to get us out of the dirt. And it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, I formation. 22 personnel. Excuse me, 21 personnel.
Is this Kaiser in that quarterback now?
Yes, Deshaun Kaiser. Notre Dame quarterback. Now, good deep ball by him, and it just doesn't get reeled in.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to show this, because this is, as much as I'm going to knock him for being predictable for running the ball down low, he gives his quarterback a chance here. Get the play action, see if we can get the defense to bite up, And then Justin Fields, this is the run. Give me a second. So then Justin Fields, go ahead and come back here and drop a deep one and see if we can hit him on the alert and get a big play. And
Which you can do.
Yeah, I mean, you said, look, Justin delivered. Now, what's crazy is, I just found this interesting. Look how close he is to getting stripped. 52 is coming around the edge there. Yep. And it's close.
Yeah, real close.
So I'm just putting Justin Fields in that spot, and I'm looking at more compact throw, ball down the field, perfect pass, touchdown.
And then as we go here, just another
against the Packers.
This is, nothing exotic, but it's a little different than what we haven't seen. This is real tight. Condensed. You actually have your 3 options here, and then your 1 backside. But you get the bunch over on the field side of the play. And then the way this ends up, where I think this, it's not the end, is it? No, this is where he scrambles out. Nothing really open. And that's part of the issue. That's the one thing I didn't love about this entire game is it's just the receivers aren't getting separation and open for him. But there's enough there to see that, there's enough concepts, I guess, if you will. So we move over here. I thought this was an interesting play. This is your 21 personnel. It looks like, 21 personnel, tight end over here, 2 backs, twins over here on the field side. And so they actually start out in twins, but then he motions over. There's that pre-snap motion that we talk about. So let's move forward. You can imagine 82 being Bayless or any of your speedy receivers motioning across. He can come and catch it a jet, like a touch pass, or think of it as a quick fake reverse, anything like that, across the back. Now they get back, and you'll see we've talked about this a lot. They like to start overloaded and then motion into a more balanced or base formation, where we started in twins, but now we're truly back into 21 personnel, receiver on each side, even fullback and halfback down the middle. And then, of course, you have your strong side being determined by your tight end. Now, in this case, you'll actually see, this is, hey, I guess 88, don't burn your legs out. Just turn around, act like you're catching the smoke screen here. And then if not, we'll just go ahead and run the ball. And just good hard running. So this is the end. You said we had to go 96 yards. We don't. Because
it's the deep ball.
Thank God.
So this is not mesh, but it's
not
it's
for you, just because of the Packers. That's all.
No, I know this is actually like a wide drag concept, but the idea here is you have this 89 is going to run essentially up and here. I don't remember what the outside receivers are doing, but we'll see it here. And then you're running the underneath here, so it's essentially a Y follow or Y drag concept. So if the men bite down here, then you're going to hit up here. If they fall back and he gets the rubber out, you're going to hit it out here. That's just the general concept. And then, of course, you have your deep routes, which sadly I don't remember at the time. And you don't get to see it because of the angle. But you have, and this is the whole idea of, hey, receivers, if it's zone, which it is, there's no man on him, find the hole in the zone. So he just sits here and waits for it. And because Deshaun Kaiser is Deshaun Kaiser, throws it to Jordan Lucas, and it's an interception. So that is as far as I got. So I got 5 minutes left in the second. But that is as far as I got with the Getsy play calling.
Yeah, actually, go ahead.
I'm going to say it puts some perspective into kind of what we're going to see from this offense, right? Go ahead, Aldo. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's too bad that's as far as he got, because the next Packer drive, I'm looking at the ESPN play-by-play, the next Packer drive was a 12-play, 81-yard drive with a couple of explosive plays, including Kaiser to some guy named T. Redding for 20 yards to the 50, and there was another explosive play that I saw, a 14-yard gain. So you'll have to
on the same drive or on the same
series, yes,
in the same game,
yeah. So the Packers actually won that game, scoring 20 points in the second quarter and 7 in the fourth quarter. They won 27-20.
I like the at least Jordan was just breaking down like the concepts of what the scheme is going to look like pre-snap and post-snap based on what what they're running per Getsy. Kind of it's interesting to think about what they're going to do, because I've thought that, like I said before, like compared to the other teams, are they going to do more of the Green Bay style of an offense? Are they going to do more of the Rams style or the Niners style?
That's what's so interesting is we're going to really see, and that's where I couldn't go so high energy the whole stream. I started out really high, but I'm still excited and can talk all about football. But that's where I'm so damn excited. Football's back.
I know.
We're going to see what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And I'm showing you just what I could scrap together because there was literally no other play calling from Getsy. But Jeremy J2K, I appreciate your kind words about a great breakdown. I have a ton of more work to do. I know my drawing's not great and technical errors, but
you clearly have some
preseason.
Yeah,
that's camp.
I mean, this is the time to get to do this right now. Get that software in, learn how to use it, because here comes the season, man. And then you get it down now. Boom, you got all that shit down. You're gonna be like, before you know it, you're like.
Well, and that's where I'm telling. I mean, I shouldn't never use always and never say never, because absolutes never happen. But assuming NFL Plus is better than Game Pass, I promise, and I shouldn't promise, but if it's available, as they say, like tonight's game, they said 10 minutes after the broadcast, it'll all be there for you to watch.
Was it?
I haven't checked because it was literally on when I hopped on. But if it's actually there, I will be going through. This is, a little bit of a plan. And Aldo and I, maybe we could talk a little bit about it here as we talk about maybe. I know that this is hard on a lot of people. It's hard on you, Shorty. It's hard on this audience hanging out so late. Maybe moving Bare Necessities to like a Saturday morning. And I'd love to hear feedback from the crowd if that's something you're more interested in, having a more reasonable time. If you'll watch on the weekends, what works best for you. But part of this is –
I had an idea.
Okay, and we'll talk about it in just a second. But my whole thing is I want to give it to the audience. I like breaking down film. I like talking about it. I like educating. I'm not – I joke I'm Mr. Foremost Ball Knower. I'm not. There's a lot of room where I can grow and learn and improve. But I think that it's a joy to talk about concepts and plays. And I'm not saying I'm going to go through every Bears game, but I would love to pick out a handful of plays that I think really swung the game one way or another on defense and offense. I feel like I can talk about both, talk about line, talk about receiving routes. And that is a real fundamental part of Bare Necessities that now that football's back, I hope to be able to do, because Aldo doesn't know this, but Shorty, we've talked about it a little bit. And I know you're experiencing this doing your own podcast now. It's difficult. In the off season, it's freaking hard to come up with content.
And we're like literally in the deepest well of the off season.
Like I'm talking
the
about
deepest point of the well of it.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Bears becoming the Bills and the Seahawks, and I'm trying my best to break down Eberflus film and stuff.
In 2 weeks, it's going to be like, shit. What do I do now? Like there's going to be so much content. You're not going to know what to do with it. You're like, okay, I have so many options, but now we're like, wow, what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, True saying, like, so we're getting Christmas early. Hell yeah, that's how I feel. Christmas is here.
Yeah,
I love football. I'm a nerd. It's literally one of my biggest passions. So I want to just go watch Jaguars games and see how is defense looking a little different this year versus offense. What are we seeing in preseason? I just nerd out over it, so I'm excited.
I have a little bit of a suggestion.
Please,
you can take it or leave it. Why don't you do because you are so passionate with your breakdowns and everything. Why don't you start off with that instead of end with it?
Sure.
Because if you start off, just go, let me do this, blah blah blah. Then you go into the interview portion, the chat portion, because then from there you've already presented all the work that you've been doing into that, what you just did there. Mm-hmm. And then you can present it. We can all talk about it. And then at the end, we can all come and talk about what you did and review all of it and talk together. I think that might help to cut your time down.
I and this is really what it's about. And Shorty, I appreciate it in chat. The show is, and look, it's a few weeks old. I get it, but it's forever going to be growing and learning and improving.
Exactly.
And it's in its infancy.
Constructive comments. That's all.
Yeah, no, I need it. I need to. I mean, I'll tell a little Liberty and a little secret. I wish these were 90 minutes long at tops. I know I don't help myself. I won't shut the fuck up. But there's a situation where I wish that we could get through them quickly. But I'll admit, it's hard doing these solo. At the beginning, I'm trying to read comments and everything. So
I know, man. I've done a few myself. So, like, just if you put all the work into the videos, right? Start off, do your videos, and then have us on and talk about it. Because then at least you got done the work you put into it. I mean, I don't mean to talk about this on air. I apologize.
No, you're okay.
Constructive online.
Oh, and to answer John's question here, he said, "Are you going to break down the Bears preseason game?" I'm going to break down the Bears preseason game, and I plan on breaking down every game. Somebody asked me earlier, "Do you drink beer?" No, I watch the game sober, so I fucking understand it. So if I'm gonna literally watch the game sober, you bet I'm going to be downloading that information and then going after it to break it down and understand it. So, yes, I will be going through the Bears preseason game, and I don't know the extent of it, and obviously it's going to vary on games. If it's a super tight game with 700 plays that are difference-making, that's going to be tougher. But I want to make it a permanent function of Bare Necessities where every week you can come here to count down on, a handful of plays where we're going to get some real detailed breakdown of what went on here. Key sack that ruined the game, touchdown, whatever. Anything that we can talk about, and it's going to be line play to receiving to concepts to anything that you can think of. The show that's what we were talking about. The show is at its infancy, but I promise I hate sound like a douchebag here where I'm tooting my own horn, but I feel like I'm passionate enough and have enough knowledge to cover. We've done a slew of different topics: film breakdown to cap spending, whether quarterbacks.
Again, you're in the deadest time of the dead season. You're doing this, right? So yeah. Imagine during the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm excited myself for what you have to break down during the season. It's going to be fun to watch.
Thank you.
I'm a fan.
Let me address Bear Truth's question here regarding Equanimous. And I mentioned this earlier in the show. Nobody knows this offense from a wide receiver standpoint better than EQ. Yep. Nobody knows it. And I think it shows. And in the press conference, or I think in a reporter interview, Justin Fields said he's always at the right place at the right time. And you could see that. You could see that there was, with some of the receivers on some routes, there was like a little hesitancy. I don't know if it was planned or whatever, but with Equanimous, everything was super smooth. And he's such a presence in the red zone. That's the other thing that was so impressive. The guy is 6'5", 225, something like that. And then, he did have that drop, as I mentioned earlier, a fumble after he caught a really nice pass, and turned around. And a second later, there was a defensive back that smacked the ball away and took it for what could have been a touchdown. But aside from that, I saw no errors. And the other impressive thing about him is that he looked really, really good in special teams drills. So he's going to have a place on this team, and I think he could maybe even steal a starting spot away from Pringle.
Even Justin Fields said it himself. He was commenting on his the knowledge of the offense and how it was helping him to get better as a quarterback in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I could bring 2 points up, because this is a time of the year when we've talked about information is so sparse, and I'm literally digging to 2019 film to try to understand what Getsy's going to bring. There's two real big points that I think are worth pointing out related to Equanimous St. Brown. And to be clear, I don't want to say I was down on the guy, but if I had to put my money, I would have put my money on N'Keal Harry being the X more than Equanimous. And
me too.
We're going to see. If it's very clear, Equanimous should have the quick and easy edge to start over guys that are not familiar with the system. But two things that are critical. One, earlier, Mr. Shorty and many others asked, how much of Green Bay do you think Getsy brings? The fact that Equanimous is ahead and he knows all the plays and the route spacing and all that tells you that a big chunk of it is what is ran in Green Bay. It's not what was going on in Mississippi State or Penn State no, it's Green Bay stuff, because Equanimous knows it. That's the only place he's been. So if you liked what Green Bay was doing, we just showed some of it. That's what you can expect. That's one. And then two, although I don't know if you're the guy that watches all the press conferences, I'm sure you saw this. You want to talk about Braxton Jones talking? Yeah, that's important too. I don't know if I've seen a press conference as weirdly, like, in some ways it was awkward, but in a good way, intense. It was funky. Equanimous came in there to the press conference and just kind of had a gritty feeling about him, an aura, where they kind of were asking him questions. And he said, look, I had some tough time. They asked him about when he got cut and then we got brought back and talked about, that was tough, but it just told me I had to improve. And, I was hoping to stay with Green Bay, but I had Chicago on my mind when they called me and they asked him, well, what do you think your role is? He said, look, I'm just out here to get better. I'm out here to win a job. I want to prove myself. And this is a good chance for me to spring my career, because he knows that what happened in Green Bay didn't work. And to Greg Gabriel's point, Greg has talked about he's got to have the monkey over his back on his shoulder about his little brothers in Detroit outdoing him. And bullshit, I'm not letting that happen. And he's got the salt in the wound of, I got to prove to Green Bay that they fucked up and that I'm going to do it with the Bears. And he knows it's a great opportunity. It's Darnell Mooney and then a big question mark. If you want it bad enough, somebody's going to rise to the top. So I really think it's interesting.
Imagine if he leaves Green Bay and comes to Chicago and becomes a stud.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it could.
It would all of Green Bay would shatter.
I mean, and we're going to see. It can go a bunch of ways. He can be Marquez Valdez-Scantling, where he's a big, tall receiver who's super fast, but he drops every ball. But that's the thing that's unique about him, is that he's not just big. He's got good speed. So he's that guy that, look, I mean, one of the guys I had talked about, Alec Pierce or any of these other, DK Metcalf, I mean, they're all fast. But typically when you're talking about these big guys, they're not burners. They're N'Keal Harry. They're ball winners. Never going to break away, but just throw them the ball and they'll find a way to win. That was Allen Robinson. Equanimous, if he finds some second wind to his career, some freaky outbreak where he just breaks out, he's fast and big. And now you've got Darnell Mooney, who's fast and route running is savvy, and you've got this big, fast former Notre Dame, Equanimous St. Brown. It's interesting. And the way he talked in that press conference just felt different to me.
Yeah.
I saw a not 60 minutes, Real Sports feature on the St. Brown family. John Brown, the father of the two wide receivers, he was a famous
Right?
bodybuilder.
Holy shit.
Yep. That is Equanimous St. Brown's dad.
He's juiced to the gills.
And he raised his kids to be different. In fact, he gave them these outlandish names, and changed their last name from Brown to St. Brown because he thought it would sound better. And he raised them to be superstars. He raised them to be tremendous athletes. He had them working out at early ages. He put that sports athlete mentality in them from the very get-go. I mean, he groomed these guys to be outstanding players. The issue with Equanimous is when he went to Notre Dame, he thought he was a star.
Yeah.
He thought he was a star. And he had a letdown year. I think it was in 2017. And people were wondering, what happened to this great kid? This guy's going to be a first-round draft pick. And so he's had battles throughout his career. The great thing is that Luke Getsy believes in him and said that after what happened a year ago, he came back and he was intense. There was a fire lit under him that I had not noticed before. And so that's what gives me great hope too, is that human story that this guy might finally be able to figure it out. He's finally getting it. I got this great chance. I've got all these skills. I'm smart enough to play well. And so hopefully it's going to happen with the Bears.
Can I tell you my thing about Equanimous St. Brown?
Mm-hmm.
He was interviewed by Jeff Joniak on the Bears Network.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire time that Jeff Joniak interviewed him, he called him Equanimous.
Oh no,
St. Brown. and I was watching this, and I had to pull up his name, and I go to myself, Equanimous, and I replay it, Equanimous, and I pause it, and I read it again, Equanimous. And I replay it, and he says Equanimous. And I'm like, what is going on in this? Is his name Equanimous? he's talking directly to him and calling him Equiminius, and he's not correcting him.
That
Is his
so
name
weird.
Equiminius or is it Equinemius?
Well,
I think it's Equinemius, right?
It's Equinemius.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, both
I don't
you
know.
gentlemen. I appreciate you acknowledging that to me because Jeff Joniak called him Equiminius to his face and kind of threw me off.
I mean, to be fair, don't get me wrong. I know Jeff Joniak should know, but it's not exactly the easiest name to come across. Too,
No,
so.
No, but come on, man.
I know.
My last name is Shortino.
Yeah.
If,
Well,
if you start calling me Sciorentino on live television or something that's going to be recorded, I'm going to fucking correct you.
yeah.
Well, and it's weird for Joniak because I know he's the type of guy who or at least
Me
he
too. That's what I mean, Aldo. I was
He
confused by it.
Yeah, he studies and he rehearses before.
I literally thought his name is pronounced Equiminius.
That's funny.
But then since then, I've heard everyone starting to say Equinemius, and I'm like, okay, I must have been right, or he's finally corrected everyone to make it sound correctly, like I do with my last name, Shortino. It's not Sciorentino. It's not Sciortino. It's Shortino. It's not Sciorty. It's Mr. Shorty, right?
Yeah.
So if you keep calling me Mr. Sciorty, I'm going to correct you, right? It was just kind of weird to me.
I met
brain
Skokes
goes
the
weird
first
shit like
time. I met Skokes, who's always on in the chat room. He's probably fast asleep by now, but I met him at Hallis Hall this week, and he no, it wasn't me. Vinny Parisi says, "Is it Skokes or Skokes?" And he said Skokes, and half the time I call him Skokes. But now, from now on, I promised him it's going to be Skokes from now on. I will never get it wrong again.
Want to quickly go over this because John had asked, do we think that Equinemius did Green Bay not give him any playing time, or was it Rodgers not throwing the ball to him? You're never really going to get the full answer there. And look, it's in the past. He'll just have to move on. It sounds like he's ready to move on, which is exciting. But I look at N'Keal Harry for no other example that when you're working with these consummate professionals, these well-established quarterbacks,
Right.
There's almost a rigidity of, look, you come in and I don't have time to work with a rookie. Get up to speed, do your job. And everybody thinks like, oh, you're just a receiver. I just run a route. Routes have spacing. They have tempo. They have timing. Then you actually have to think about the quarterback feeling like you're a reliable target. If I throw to you, you're not going to drop it. All of that stuff. And you have these quarterbacks that have been in it forever. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, and with Aaron, it's been well noted that he doesn't get along with a lot of young receivers. He wants his guys. And it comes to this situation where Equinemius was probably there thinking he's hot shit. And the reality is, look, Rook, I have Devontae Adams. I have Alan Lazard. I have Randall Cobb at the time. I think he had Randall Cobb before he exited there. It's Jordy Nelson. I've got my guys. You need to get up to speed if you ever want to play. And any type of tomfoolery or fuckery that went on, you're out. You're out. You're in the doghouse. I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have time to play and catch you up. That was probably. I mean, who knows? I shouldn't say probably.
I mean,
Harry
EQ came in like, look, I'm the son of this guy.
That's right.
Yeah. And that AR was like, fuck off.
Yeah, and N'Keal Harry suffered a lot of likely the same thing. I mean, now he didn't have Tom Brady his whole time, but Tom Brady's likely not a guy that's easy to gain the trust of in year one. Yep. Then you're going into year two with Cam, who's coming off shoulder surgery and not sure. Then you're trying to build a rapport with Mac Jones, and it's just it's hard to latch on to multiple quarterbacks, but then especially you want to get off to a hot start, and a guy like Aaron Rodgers or a guy like Tom Brady, you're asking to go up a very steep hill. It's just not easy.
Yeah, with Rodgers, I mean, the guy doesn't even get along with his family. So if you don't make a great impression on him as a wide receiver, he's not going to throw you the ball.
I mean, Aldo, look, I'm dead ass serious. Nobody will probably ever be able to explain it. How could anybody say why Devontae Adams literally said it wasn't a payment issue?
So
Green Bay was really willing to pay Devontae Adams, and he said, "I do not want to be here. I would rather be." And I know he was a lifelong Raiders fan. Grew up in Fresno. Derek Carr was, I get it. But literally said, I would rather get away from a guy that's helped me launch my career. He's one of the best quarterbacks still at his age. They will pay me what I want. They'll make me the highest paid. Get me the fuck out of Green Bay. I'd rather go to Las Vegas. It's strange.
Yeah.
It is strange.
It really is.
And I wonder if Aaron Rodgers going off and doing ayahuasca and mushrooms now has made him come back to his parents, at least, Aldo.
I doubt it.
You know what it must have been? Devontae Adams must have saw the sketches for the tattoos and been like, I'm fucking out of here. I can't do this.
And isn't ayahuasca, isn't that illegal? I mean, shouldn't the NFL call him in for a meeting and saying, hey,
well, you would think so.
Yeah, where'd you do this? What's going on?
Well, is it not and I don't know anything about it, but is it not a natural plant of some sort? Maybe he could get away with that.
It's like a cactus.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a cactus of sorts that
Well, I mean, this
you
is
go
the
out
guy
into
that,
the desert and you eat this cactus.
well,
plant,
this is the
and
guy that
you
was
go off into a different world.
Yeah, well, this is the guy that
I don't
was,
know. I've never done it, but I'm just from what I know.
Oh, stop, Shorty.
This is
I've never done ayahuasca.
I mean, this is the guy though that literally cleansed himself using ghee butter.
Yeah.
Like ghee butter and
He
stuff.
shows
like,
up in the camp wearing a wife beater, and he's like got his hair all hanging down, like I'm all cleansed from psychedelics. Like it's a new season.
And John brings up a good point here regarding Devontae Adams. They said tonight's games the Raiders were on that part of it was he didn't know how long that Rodgers would be playing in Green Bay with him because of all the BS every offseason. And that's what we're talking about though, John.
Exactly.
This is who Aaron Rodgers is, where it's a attention seeker, drama. I mean, God, I got to come into training camp looking like Nicolas Cage and
Right.
Hot Air Con or whatever.
Yes, thank you. And like what Aldo was saying, like what if he came into camp going, man, I just did an 8-ball of cocaine last weekend. I'm ready to play. Like they'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? Excuse me. We're gonna have to put you into some protocol here, man. You know, like
And believe
he's
this,
admitting he just did psychedelics. Like,
I mean, believe me,
what
this is the guy that's sitting there going, I mean, look, because let's just draw the parallels. Carson Wentz was called a bad leader and is questioned because he wouldn't get the vaccine in Indy, and it was causing a lot of strife about, we could be losing our starting quarterback at any moment. Aaron Rodgers is a whole different level because he's so successful. But you have this whole situation where he's claiming he's whatever the word was that he was vaccinated, gave the impression he was to not get vaxxed. Right. And then he's saying like, oh, I'm an athlete. I don't want to put any needles in my body. I'm not sure. And then he's going and getting a tattoo 6 months later. And he's going to Halloween parties, not vaxxed. And the league's literally saying you can't even have lunch in the cafeteria with your teammates if you're not vaxxed.
I know he's
every single aspect of this guy's time in the last few years has been a mess. And I don't blame Devontae Adams, but the teams put up with it because when you have 2-time MVP,
he went from one of the hottest actresses to a witch, and then started doing psychedelics. I mean,
immunized.
I'm
immunized.
Good for him, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, he claimed that Rodgers claimed that he and Adams were talking throughout the offseason about the contract and stuff like that. Yeah. But I don't know really what that was about. If I was the wide receiver and Aaron Rodgers was kind of in control of things as he was and still is, I would hope that my quarterback would say to Packers management, you need to sign Devontae for whatever he wants, or I'm definitely gone. But I think maybe Adams was a little bit pissed off that there wasn't that, let's bring me in. I'm your guy. We've got something special going on. We can break every record imaginable. We could win Super Bowls together. But the fact that Rodgers seemed so selfish throughout that whole process had to be a turnoff.
Oh, well, and make it very clear, Aaron Rodgers took no discount whatsoever with this recent pay. It's actually, and there's a lot of people that say the cap is fake. We'll see. This is a real test with Green Bay, but go look at Green Bay's cap. They have pushed it all forward. They've put it all on the credit card. And sure, it may look good while Rodgers is good for the next 1 or 2 years, but I don't know how you pay Rodgers what he wants, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, Amos, Savage, Kenny Clark, David Bakhtiari. It literally doesn't work, which is why you saw them get rid of Devontae Adams and things like that. But Aaron Rodgers in many ways screwed them with his payday.
Man.
I think that all the things above led to him going, fuck it, I'm just going to do some ayahuasca and see what happens.
That's right.
And he was like, oh, I had the best season I ever had.
Well, and Lord knows he'll find some way to come into Chicago, or I guess we'll be going there, and he'll say, I owed you at your place, and I owed you here, and we'll see.
Oh, boy.
I know. He's the
whole own me thing.
Just got my blood pressure going there.
I hope the ayahuasca helped him to realize that I shouldn't say that to Bears fans.
Well, I got to say to John, when I was in San Diego, I stopped. I was at Petco Park, and I stopped to ask the security guard for directions to where I was going, and he saw me wearing a Chicago Bears shirt, and he says, "You're a Bears fan. I'm not telling you anything." We had a laugh and so forth. And as I'm walking away, I say to him, "Hey, you know, Aaron Rodgers is a goner after this season." And he goes, "Don't talk to me about that pansy." So not every Packers fan defends him.
No, it's
no, I know they don't. No, that's true. They don't.
And that's, I mean, not to strain on too much longer, but that's the whole idea, is that if Justin Fields is that guy, which we all believe he is, I've said it before, you don't become such a huge success throughout 20-some years of your life, and then all of a sudden you're a bad player. If he's that guy, which he has all the talent in the world to be, and we've talked about the scheme tonight, we've talked about Eberflus, the accountability, all this stuff, Aaron Rodgers will be heading out in a couple of years. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. Detroit may be ahead in many ways of their offensive line is built and everything. They are a step behind in getting the right person behind the center to take the snap. The Bears will be in the lead pole position to take first place.
And by the way, there's not very many NFC quarterbacks, right? So if realistically, if Justin Fields can turn into a superstar, like a super duper star, like I personally think he could be, then you're not all the quarterbacks are in the AFC. So he could realistically be in the NFC Championship game for 5 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Stafford's getting older, Rodgers is getting older. What's
Brady.
next?
Yeah, Brady.
Brady's gone after this season probably. So he has the reign in the NFC if he can take it. If he can like Pulse said, grab a stranglehold on the NFC and like not let it go. If he can do that on the NFC North and the NFC, he could like realistically be the NFC quarterback in the playoff and in the championship game every year for the next 5-6 years.
I mean,
because there's no one else behind him, and they're all older than him. He has
Renewable says it the best. I mean, it's what Ryan Bull said. We're going to take the North and never give it back. And
all the great quarterbacks are in the AFC. All of them. There's very few left in the NFC, and the only ones are older. So there's another reason why I think he can have a breakout year this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough. I love both of you, gentlemen. You give me a good time talking about football, and you allow me to spew anything about any teams and everything else. And I can't thank you both enough for riding with me until 11:30 Pacific, which means it's 1:30 Central. And
it's your show, so you are the editorial director of this show.
It's only 2:30 for me, buddy.
Yeah. Well, clubs are closed, so let me get you out of here. But chat, thank you so much for hanging along. I hope this was a fun and enjoyable show.
Thank you, Pat.
John, maybe you were saying you wanted to hop on the show at one point. Anybody that wants to come on the show has a position that they'd like to talk about, love to have you on. I want to make this a welcoming community of Barflies and Bears fans. We can talk about anything that's open, shows in its infancy, everything I usually report. But as always, like the video, subscribe, send me any feedback you have. Always willing to talk about anything. And everybody, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Aldo, Mr. Short, do you have anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I just want to say thank you for having me on again, both of you gentlemen. You can catch me on Bears Country Podcast. I changed the Twitter handle. There's no underscores anymore, Jordan.
Thank you.
Bears fucking no underscores. Bears Country Podcast on YouTube. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me, and it's always a pleasure.
Likewise, Jordan, I really am so happy that you're a part of the bar room, and I'm so happy that Shorty is now making so many frequent appearances, and that's going to continue throughout the season. This is great stuff, and I love the fact that we've got a barroom show that goes to 1:30 in the morning at Chicago time, because I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to have like a late night for people who haven't
later, and
and let's talk football. You know, we could do our rest in peace Les Grobstein. We can do our own Les Grobstein thing here at the barroom. So I love it that Jordan is out in the West Coast, because he allows us to do that, at least for a while. I know we're talking about switching the start time of the show, but while we have you at this late night hour, we're blessed. Thank you, Jordan.
And it doesn't bother me, because my work schedule allows me to do this. So it's a pleasure. And by the way, Aldo, it's a pleasure meeting you for the first time and talking with you. And thank you to both of you gentlemen again for just allowing me to come on and speak with you guys. Thank you.
Of course. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. This has been Bear Necessities. We'll see you soon. Bears football in general. We're back, baby. And we'll talk soon. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Bear down.
Bears.
Wow.